Access granted.
Time flies. I can't believe we're already starting the CanJam season again.
Yeah.
So the CanJam 2025 season is upon us, and it starts right about now.
Yeah, and we're starting in a new city. So this year we have CanJam Hong Kong. Now, CanJam Hong Kong is taking place January 18th and 19th, 2025 at the Hong Kong Ocean Park Marriott. Now, I've not been to Hong Kong before. CanJam hasn't either, but you have. So what did you think when you were there?
Yeah, so every city we go to with CanJam has its own vibe, and Hong Kong will definitely have its own vibe.
Right.
I would say it's very fast-paced and energetic. There's a certain sort of urban intensity to it, right? Like a dense urban intensity. It's a 24/7 culture.
Sure.
There's a sort of cultural fusion. East meets West, traditional and modern.
Nice.
Yeah.
And in the photos and videos that I've seen online showing Hong Kong, it looks beautiful.
It is a beautiful city. It's again, it's kind of a dense urban environment, right?
Yeah, I believe
But
it.
where we are at Ocean Park Marriott, actually, there's a little bit more air there and a little bit more scenery that
Nice.
other than buildings. But yet, it's just a quick step into anything in Hong Kong from Ocean Park Marriott. So I'm actually really looking forward to going back.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be so much gear there, like an insane amount of gear. We should probably dive straight into it.
Yeah, I think we should too.
HIFIMAN is one of our CanJam Hong Kong sponsors this year, and we would like to extend a special thank you to HIFIMAN for helping make CanJam Hong Kong possible. Now, 2024 was a busy year for HIFIMAN with the launch of several new full-size headphones, and CanJam Hong Kong may be your first chance to audition them. Let's take a look at some of the latest open and closed-back additions to the HIFIMAN family.
I think in the world of Head-Fi, when we hear or see the word wireless, there's kind of a bias, I think, with a lot of us. I'm one of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Where it reduces expectations. This kind of wiped that away for me.
Yeah.
So this is the HIFIMAN Ananda BT R2R.
Right.
So BT is Bluetooth, R2R is R2R DAC. I'm going to actually, let's talk, I'll let you talk about some of the improvements versus the original Ananda BT.
Yeah, so like the name implies, this has an R2R DAC inside, which the Ananda BT did not. It does feature HIFIMAN's Himalaya DAC, which is an R2R system that they developed in-house, and I'm happy to say this has the full Himalaya. It doesn't have the Himalaya LE, which is kind of like a lighter version of the Himalaya.
Yeah.
They've gone full hog, and it just sounds so nice in the integration, the way they integrated it.
Yeah.
It also has a couple of improvements that we didn't have on the original Ananda BT because they came after the Ananda BT came out. First of which is the stealth magnets. You'll find those in here because they were not out for the Ananda BT. It also has a lighter, thinner diaphragm material, which is going to enhance the sound quality as well.
Yeah.
And then we have a microphone array in this. It's a 2 microphone array. If you recall, the original Ananda BT had a boom microphone. This is a built-in 2 microphone system, which is cool because it allows you to do some cool DSP features. It does a little bit of outside noise rejection, so it kind of brings the din down around you if you're talking to somebody on, say, a phone call. And I believe it also has some like echo.
Yeah, it has echo and
cancellation.
Echo and reverb cancellation as well,
which is really, really cool.
Now, in terms of wireless, it supports aptX HD, and LDAC. I paired this with my Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, put it in LDAC mode.
Yeah,
phenomenal. So LDAC, with a lot of LDAC products I've used, the connections can be a bit unstable. This has a rock solid LDAC connection with my Samsung.
Yeah.
So I love that about it. I don't have to tweak any of the settings in developer mode to like reduce rate and everything. It's just stable. And I love that about it. You can also use it wired with USB-C.
Yeah, which is great if you're an iPhone user.
Correct.
Newer iPhone.
A new iPhone, and you want to use that to get like full resolution.
Exactly.
But if you have an Android phone that supports especially LDAC, you're in for a treat. And it's at its price, it's not just fantastic for a wireless headphone.
Yeah.
It is fantastic, period, at the price. That it's wireless is incredible for that level of freedom. I'm actually way more excited about this than I thought I'd be, given that it's wireless. And I love that it's their R2R DAC architecture. So again, if you're an R2R DAC enthusiast, you're going to love this thing. So this is the HIFIMAN HE1000 unveiled. Yes, the HE1000 has now received the unveiled treatment that started with the Susvara unveiled.
Yes, it
What
has.
that simply means is there is a magnetic veil, a magnetic cover that you put on when you're not listening to it to protect the back of the driver, because when you take that magnetic veil off, which you must always do when you're going to listen to it, it exposes the back of the driver completely.
Yeah, because it's extremely exposed.
Extremely exposed.
Yeah.
And this would make it the second fully open back design planar magnetic headphone from HIFIMAN.
Yeah, fully open back.
That's the key word, is fully. And as with the Susvara unveiled, it's designed to eliminate the negative effects of sound wave reflections. Now, there's something about that unveiled concept that definitely seems to be working.
I agree.
Because there are some consistent changes between this and the original HE1000s and the Susvara unveiled and the original Susvara.
Right.
Let me explain. So when I first heard the original HE1000, because there have been a few different models of it.
Yeah.
I first heard the original one, I don't even know.
Oh, that was ages ago.
Yeah, a zillion years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was at a CES. And I was completely blown away by it because of its flagship resolution.
Yep.
And I think it was the flagship in the HIFIMAN line until the Susvara was released.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, it was also the first headphone to come out with their nanometer diaphragm.
Yeah, you're not mistaken, actually. You are correct.
Yeah.
So that HE1000 has been a staple in this community ever since the first model was released.
Yeah.
For good reason, for that flagship resolution. This does, though, again, what the Susvara unveiled did for the Susvara. It improves resolution, but it also, to my ears, has a smoother treble performance than maybe any other HE1000 I've heard.
Okay.
So it would be the least bright to my ears.
Right.
I haven't measured it, so I can't say I confirmed that with measurements or anything, but to my ears, it sounds smoother, and it has the most balanced signature of any of the HE1000s I've heard, and that's saying something. So, and yet it's more resolving.
Right.
And that's kind of how I describe the Susvara unveiled versus the original Susvara.
Yeah, exactly.
So an incredible headphone has become even more incredible. Frankly, it's a lot less expensive than the Susvara unveiled.
Oh, no question.
Like way less expensive.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what we deal with in this industry, right? Is kind of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
So the Susvara unveiled is unquestionably more resolving. It is the better headphone objectively. Just it's incredible.
No doubt.
But this comes way closer to it at its price than I would have expected it to.
Yeah.
It's that good. I guess it makes sense that you're the one holding that one.
Why is that?
Because you helped name a part of it, a key part of it.
That's true.
So I'll explain that in a second. You know what the story is. So that is the HIFIMAN Susvara unveiled.
Yeah.
This is HIFIMAN's flagship non-electrostatic headphone.
Right.
It joins the original Susvara in the line, but doesn't replace it.
Right.
But it's above it. It's
Yes.
clearly the new flagship. And let's explain why it's called the unveiled.
Yeah, for sure. So this comes off.
That comes off. And that is a cover that you take off when you want to listen to it. You put on when you're not listening to it to protect the driver.
Yes.
Because when you take it off, it becomes the Susvara unveiled. Let me explain. HIFIMAN says the Susvara unveiled is the first fully open back design planar magnetic headphone. Fully open back.
I do like that word.
You take that cover off and you expose the back of the motor structure of the driver. It's completely exposed. And they say it eliminates the negative effects of sound wave reflections. Now let me complete the story. So that cover didn't have a name
Yeah, that's true.
originally. And so Brian said, well, I guess they should call it the Veil.
Yeah.
Since it's called the Susvara Unveiled, right? And so we messaged Fang, the founder of HIFIMAN, with the idea, and he said, you know what, I like that. Let's go with it. And now they call it the magnetic veil.
Yep.
You're a branding expert, Brian.
I am.
So I can't talk about this Susvara Unveiled without talking about the original Susvara a little bit, because the original Susvara, I think the community considered pretty widely as the most resolving non-electrostatic headphone. Certainly one of them that you could buy at any price.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think you do too. And then this comes out, and they make it marginally more resolving.
Yeah.
They refined the treble to my ears. They have smoothed the treble out a bit. And I actually haven't measured that one, so I don't know if it's measurably smoother, but it sounds like smoother, more refined treble to my ears.
Right.
And it's a little more sensitive.
Yeah.
But maybe even more important than the sensitivity, and it's not just the sensitivity, I find it to be easier to pair with other amps.
That is true.
Whereas the original Susvara, you had to be very careful about how you paired it.
Yeah,
not just for power, but for synergy.
Yeah, you had to find that right combination, but when you did, you were rewarded for it amply. It was just a great little experience.
Good. Is that intentional?
Not really, but I'll take
Amply.
it. Yeah.
Good one. So you were rewarded handsomely if you had the right pairing. With the Susvara Unveiled, though, it's much less picky in that regard, in my experience. So it is more sensitive, but it's beyond just the sensitivity.
Yeah.
It's easier to find synergy. I mean, I can plug it into almost anything that can drive it.
Yes.
So flagship tube amp, some of the ones that we've tried with it, absolutely incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And then today I was running it out of the solid state FiiO K19, incredible.
Yeah, and we've also paired it with some more budget-friendly, modest amplifiers that still sound fantastic.
I know which one you're thinking of, the Shit Audio Midgard.
Exactly.
$220.
Yep.
Beautiful pairing.
Yeah.
And I also drive it with my digital audio players that have nice, healthy output.
Yeah.
And it sounds beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So this, to me, is one of the most important improvements of the Susvara Unveiled. Yes, it's more resolving. Yes, it's marginally more resolving.
Yes.
Yes, it has a more refined treble performance to my ears, which I didn't think I wanted out of the original Susvara, but I guess now that I hear that, I do. And it's just a lot easier to pair with stuff, to be rewarded, as you said, amply.
Yeah.
So that right there is a completely worthy HIFIMAN flagship, the Susvara Unveiled. So this beast of a headphone is the HIFIMAN Isvarna.
Yeah.
The Isvarna was launched at CanJam Dallas 2024, and it was met with a lot of praise. People were having fun with the Isvarna. I will say it. I'm having a tremendous amount of fun with the Isvarna. Let's talk about what it is, because it's a very unique headphone. So it's a closed-back, dual-driver hybrid over-ear. It uses HIFIMAN's high-end planar magnetic full-range drivers. So it uses their nanometer thickness diaphragm and HIFIMAN stealth magnets. So it's one of their higher-end planar magnetic drivers. But they couple it with dynamic drivers.
Yep.
So for the dynamic drivers, they cover the lows up to around 300 hertz, I believe. And it's an oval-shaped subwoofer design. So you can see where the drivers are on the back here on the back edge, and they went with oval drivers to get it to fit.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but when I think of oval drivers, I always think of one of my favorite loudspeakers of all time, which is the Lin Isobaric, that also used oval woofers. Anyway, just makes me think of those.
Yeah, one of the coolest things about those drivers, I'll say, is actually the angling. So inside, the planar magnetic is in a more conventional place, but the dynamic driver is actually off angle, and they do that to address phase issues. And I got to say, they did a fantastic job incorporating them, and I think that's such a cool feature of the headphone.
Oh, yeah, and yeah, it works really well, and they image beautifully as well, very wide. And let's talk about that sound, by the way. So the sound with these, okay, so if you think of planar magnetic headphones, most of which are open back, they generally have very linear frequency response down through the bass.
Yep.
Very flat. These don't. Because of that subwoofer, they are unabashedly a subwoofered planar magnetic headphone, closed back, by the way, again. Right. And I love that about it. So I tend to listen at low volume levels. So when people take a headphone from me, they usually end up turning up the volume.
Sure.
And if you're familiar with equal loudness contours, or what people call the Fletcher-Munson curves, that's the older version, then you'll understand why. So at lower volume levels, it doesn't really sound as bass emphasized.
Right.
But when you turn it up, it is a bass emphasized headphone. Oh, yeah. Unquestionably, unabashedly, right? But it's still beautifully done. I enjoy the heck out of these because now you have, again, a high-end HIFIMAN planar magnetic headphone. And at the price, it's like $2,900 US.
Yeah.
This is one of their higher-end planar headphones. But with the fun and slam and physicality, that palpability of those subwoofers. So I really enjoy these, and I definitely enjoy them, especially when I'm listening at lower listening levels, to have that presence still in place with the resolution of the planar drivers. Fantastic. And again, they image beautifully. So this is a can't miss at CanJam just because there's nothing else like them.
ECT is one of our CanJam Hong Kong sponsors this year, and we would like to extend a special thank you to ECT for helping make CanJam Hong Kong possible. ECT will be bringing several full-size headphones that we know and love here at HeadFi HQ to CanJam Hong Kong, some new, some classic. Here are just a few full-size headphones from Odyssey, Abyss Headphones, and Fostex that you'll find at ECT's CanJam Hong Kong exhibit.
Now, you know I love me some electrostatic headphones.
You do.
Apparently, they make me use very bad grammar as well. I
Yeah.
talk like a caveman. But this is the Odyssey Carbon 2.
Mm-hmm.
So very excited about this headphone. It was launched at CanJam SoCal 2024, and it incorporates a technology that Audeze developed for it called SLAM.
Yeah.
Which stands for Symmetric Linear Acoustic Modulator. I'm going to read what Audeze says about it. SLAM is tuned to enhance selected low frequencies while maintaining optimal air pressure distribution. SLAM gives Carbon 2 the most physical, lifelike bass response of any electrostatic headphone. SLAM optimizes air pressure distribution across the driver, allowing Carbon 2 to resolve more fine detail than any headphone in our history for incredibly immersive stereo imaging and soundstage presentation. Okay, so that's marketing copy, but I will say that's actually fair.
It is.
Now, I want to, a little caveat here, because when you hear the word SLAM and we talk about the bass emphasis or the bass enhancement, it might give the impression that this is like some sort of bass head electrostatic headphone.
Yeah, you may think that until you actually hear it.
Until you hear it, but it's not. This is not a bass head electrostatic headphone. The emphasis is very tastefully done. It's on the kind of the lower part of the lows to my ears.
Right.
And so it just gives it a little bit of physicality and impact that I need for my headphones. I will say also that it seems to do more than just the bass, like it affect the bass. I feel like it affects the whole driver somehow.
Yeah.
Like it allows the diaphragm, which is, it still uses the carbon nanotube embedded driver film, I feel like it allows it to breathe more freely because the details they seem to be jumping off this headphone's diaphragm more than with the original carbon.
Yeah.
And I love that about it. I mean, this is to me a very worthy upgrade. And again, I'm not EQing it I'm not EQing it at all, actually. With the original carbon, I don't remember my exact EQ settings. I think I was taking down the upper mids a bit and then giving it a little bass enhancement. And for this, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you not familiar with electrostatic headphones, I'll say it. I think some of the very best headphones ever made in the world are electrostatic. They don't use magnets.
Right.
I'm not going to explain the electrostatic principles right now, but they don't use magnets. There's no traces on the diaphragm. And so in many cases, and I'm sure it's true here, the diaphragm actually has lower mass than the air it's displacing to make the sound. So details can jump right off a very well-designed electrostatic driver. And with this, I feel the SLAM seems to be helping it do that even more versus, say, the original carbon. Fantastic headphone. I am an electrostatic headphone enthusiast. And so if you can't tell, I'm quite joyous about the Audeze Carbon 2. This is a can't miss at CanJam. Now, any flagship from Audeze, if it's going to be at CanJam, has to be talked about.
Yeah.
And this is still their flagship planar magnetic headphone. This is the Audeze LCD5. Now, we've actually done a full video review of the Audeze LCD5 where we have, I believe, measurement comparisons, and, of course, objective impressions.
Right.
And this is still, to this day, one of the most resolving non-electrostatic headphones you can get to this very day. And let's talk about it. So, of course, it's a planar magnetic headphone. It uses Fluxor magnets, updated phaser waveguides. I'm looking at the notes. It says patent pending parallel uniforce voice coils. It's entirely possible that they've already received the patent on that.
I would think so by now.
Maybe they have.
Yeah.
Magnesium, acetate, and carbon fiber design. Absolutely gorgeous. Sculpted ear pad design. And at only 420 grams for a flagship headphone, that's actually a very reasonable weight. And I find that this newer style, Audeze flagships, headband style, with this carbon fiber, by the way, which is gorgeous, is quite comfortable. It distributes the weight very beautifully. Now let's talk about the sound. Again, one of the most resolving non-electrostatic headphones you can buy today.
Yeah.
I think the default signature, just how it is how you listen to it.
Exactly.
I actually listen to it that way a lot too. However, I will sometimes EQ, I think the upper mids down a bit. But man, that resolution on the Audeze LCD5. So please do watch our video about the Audeze LCD5. And if you're at CanJam, you can't not listen to, if you haven't heard it already, their flagship planar magnetic headphone. Okay, now I'm showing off just a little bit here. A little bit.
Yeah.
So this is a limited edition. Can't get it anymore. Audeze Maxwell. It's called the Ultraviolet Edition. Right. I think it's sold out in like a day or two.
It did.
Yeah, it sold out very quickly. And the reason I'm showing it is because it was the Maxwell I had on hand for filming here.
Yeah, mine's at home.
Yeah, I have a normal one at home as well, like the non-ultraviolet edition one at home as well. So the Audeze Maxwell, and I think we both agree on this, is the best gaming headset available today, period.
Hands down.
Hands down.
Yep.
It uses Audeze's 90mm planar magnetic drivers, dual onboard amplifiers. I'm going to let you talk about the microphone array.
So actually, it's cool because it has the microphone array, which is a 5-mic beamforming array. It also has a boom microphone, which is detachable. And both microphone systems support Audeze's filter technology. So it does noise isolation. It rejects some of the outside noise that's going on around you. So if you have a noisy environment or even if you're chewing, it does a great job rejecting that noise. I love that.
Right.
And, you know, if you're going to be gaming, it's nice to know this has an 80-hour battery life. Now, my girlfriend uses it for work as well as gaming. So it gets a lot of that 80-hour runtime within a week very easily, you know, 6 to 8 hours a day working and then gaming at night. It's very comfortable because it has a really nice headband system that you can easily just adjust the height, and it's very durable, far more durable than some other gaming headsets. A lot of people might end up breaking them, you know, in gamer rage fits and things like that.
Right. Actually, I think that was actually a factor in its design.
I think it might have been.
Right. To be more resistant to, as you said, gamer rage fits.
Exactly.
No, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's wireless, and it supports a lot of the modern codecs. So it has LE audio support, LC3 Plus support, and LDAC support, which is very nice to see. So when you're pairing it with an Xbox, if you get the Xbox version, or if you pair the Xbox version with PC, it also comes with a license for Dolby Atmos, which is really nice. And speaking of Atmos, anybody who uses this professionally, if you work
in a studio
if you work in film, if you work in cinema, or if you work in television, Dolby Atmos Renderer also supports head tracking with the Atmos, which is very, very nice.
With the Maxwell.
Yeah. And then one thing I do want to mention, because I know I picked up a pair, Deconi Audio launched ear pads that are velour ear pads for the Maxwell. And I will tell you, if you want to increase the comfort on the Maxwell to no end, pick up a pair, and you're going to enjoy that because you can wear those for hours on end. Endless comfort.
Yeah, I use the stock pads. I don't have the Daconis. I should pick up a pair.
Yeah.
But I use the stock. Now, I don't game as much as you do. I use these mostly to listen to music wirelessly because in addition to being a gaming headset, they're also just fantastic. Honestly, they're great work headphones.
Yeah.
Because you can use them to talk on the phone.
Yep.
To do Zoom calls.
Zoom and Teams meetings, yep.
Correct. And then just fantastic sound quality for music listening. They're very musical wireless headphones that go for like 80 hours of charge. And they have selectable EQ as well.
Yeah.
You know, right on the headset, you can change the EQ. And there is a Harman-like tuning.
Right.
So if you're curious about that, you can just dial that in. So fantastic headphone. Best gaming headset. Now it's a studio headphone as well for Dolby Atmos. And just a great wireless headphone, period. This is the Abyss Headphones Diana DZ. And what I'm about to say about the Diana DZ might be considered kind of like heresy to some diehard Abyss Headphones fans. But know this, I am an Abyss Headphones diehard fan. I think anybody that watches our videos would know that. So I feel qualified in saying what I'm about to say. The Diana DZ, for my tastes, is the best Abyss Headphones to date.
Mm-hmm.
Abyss Headphones headphone to date. And the reason is they bring all of the things that I love about the Abyss sound from the very first model they did, which was the first version, Abyss AB1266.
Right.
It's a certain tactility, a certain physicality, a certain corporeal quality to the image objects that they present. That is, music instruments actually have a physical presence, if you will.
Right.
Like they're coming from something physical. The human voices are coming from something physical, you know, like a human, right? Like there's something, not like they're right in front of you or anything like that, but it's coming from some place physical. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do.
Now, imagine taking those qualities and then coupling that with maybe the most conventional sound signature of any Abyss headphone to date.
True.
All right. That makes them, to me, my favorite of the Abyss headphones to date. So also, in addition to what I just said, there's some of the changes to the physical design, which aren't obvious when you just look at it.
Right.
So there's a new headband. If you go to Abyss Headphones YouTube channel, which they have a lot of fun videos to watch anyway, but they do a short video about the headband, the redesigned headband. You can't understand what's going on, how intricate this is, without looking inside the headband.
Right.
I'm not going to tear this apart for the purpose, but they do. And look at that. Then you have these new pads, hybrid ear pads with soft ultra suede on the face. They come stock with these. Also very comfortable. And then the mass, low mass, 315 grams. If you're familiar with planar magnetic headphone weight, 315 grams is very lightweight.
Right.
Coupled with the new headband, the new strap design, the new pads, it wears more like a conventional headphone.
Yeah.
As well. So for all those reasons, this is my favorite. Now, I know you don't agree necessarily because you probably prefer the Diana TC.
Yeah, I'm in the TC camp.
Which I think is still officially a Diana flagship.
It is.
I consider it the co-flagship with the DZ. Now, this is where a little bit of the heresy comes in, right? Because even versus any version of the AB1266, I would say I prefer the Diana DZ.
Okay.
So, and I love the AB1266. But for all those reasons that I've just given, this is my favorite Abyss headphone to date. Now, I want to talk really quickly about the appearance.
Yeah.
Because they're gorgeous. And you can see here we have the violet abalone highlights. You can also get them with Damascus forged carbon fiber and gold forged carbon fiber. And they're beautiful. And if you've ever handled an Abyss headphone of any model, they're built like tanks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like billet aluminum everywhere. Just gorgeous. So for $3,995, they are premium price. That's U.S. pricing. But they're not the most expensive of the Abyss headphones. But again, they are my favorites. So at CanJam, make sure to check out the Diana DZ and try the different pads, because you can also get lambskin leather or vegan ultra suede pads. I actually also really enjoy these with the vegan base port pads.
Yeah.
So try those too.
Now, we all know Abyss headphones for their full-size headphones and, of course, cables, but they also make The Stand, and I love that name because it's so authoritative. This is The Stand. Perfect naming.
And it is an authoritative stand.
It is, too. Now, The Stand is a wooden headphone stand. It comes in walnut, cherry, or sapele, and it comes with an aluminum frame with a very heavy steel base and large rubber footers. So the nice thing about this stand is that base and the feet bring the weight down and spread it out and make them very stable. So overall, no matter what you do to this stand, it's not going anywhere. Now, when I say heavy, I mean heavy.
Yes.
It's 2.4 kilograms or 5.2 pounds. There's a lot of mass just in this stand. It's wonderful.
And it's almost all low.
Exactly.
And so the center of gravity on the stand is so low that it would take, I think it would almost take a deliberate action to make it tip over.
Yeah.
Because it's on the microphone table, I'm not going to play with it and make all this noise. But I would love to show you what it's like when you try to tip it over. It just rights itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it, again, I don't know what you'd have to do to get it to tip over. I've had headphones on it where I've tripped over the cable, and where other stands fall over. This does not.
Yeah. And for a lot of us headfires, when we get a headphone, we invest in that headphone.
Yes.
This is going to make a wonderful bass no matter what headphone you're using. Of course, they're going to want you to use it with Abyss headphones.
Of course.
But no matter what headphone you have, this is an excellent headphone stand to choose because it's just really going to protect whatever investment you have.
And I do love the design. Even though it looks simple, the radius of this top wood part that holds the headband was carefully chosen, the curve, to match as many headphones as they could get it to match. I love the texture, like the machined wood finish. That's machined wood, and which is grippy, by the way.
It is.
Which does help. And so, yeah, the stand is, I'll say it, I think I can say this is the best headphone stand we have in the office.
I agree.
Unfortunately, we only have one.
Right.
We'll probably have to pick up more. We could probably use more in this office for sure.
Yeah.
So the stand, I mean, that's how much we love it, that we're actually talking about a stand that you cannot miss at CanJam. This is the closed back Fostex TH1000RP. You're holding the open back Fostex TH1100RP. These are very big deals because they are Fostex's new flagship headphones, and they don't release flagship headphones but once every many years.
Yeah.
Now, before I talk more about these, I don't know why this came to mind again, but I'm reminded of I have a long personal history with Fostex.
Yeah.
It goes back many years to when I was a kid, back when I thought I could be a musical person, a musician. Yeah, whatever. Laugh it up, chuckles. Yeah, but you're right. As it turns out, I was not a musician. Yeah. I thought if I picked up this Fostex multi-track cassette recorder, I could make multi-track recordings, be a musician. Okay, it was not to be. So anyways, I don't know why I brought that up, but that's how long. Well, people might not realize how far Fostex goes back with things like that. But even with their headphones, they go way back.
Oh, yeah.
Fostex T50RP, T40RP, that family of planar magnetic headphones. And then many years ago, they released the TH900, which I mentioned, which was it was a dynamic flagship using their biocellulose diaphragm. I love that headphone. Had emphasized bass, emphasized treble. It was a really fun sounding flagship headphone. And these are very much a departure in every way. Let's talk about, first of all, appearance. The TH900, one of the things it was known for was its beautiful appearance. It used urushi lacquer, which is a traditional Japanese lacquering technique that goes back many, many years. And they were such a deep, beautiful, glossy lacquer. And they were hard to photograph, but I took more photographs of the TH900 than maybe any other headphone ever. And they look like something that I stole from the Japanese emperor's palace or something. But these are also beautiful, and they use a completely different traditional Japanese dyeing technique.
Yeah.
And it's a dyed indigo blue. I can't pronounce Japanese words or phrases nearly as well as you, so I'll let you take it from here.
Well, the method is called awa aizome, And Fostex says that Tokushima's Awa Aizome has long been known throughout Japan as an indispensable die for high-end dyed goods because of its rich and luxurious appearance. And when you take a look at this, it does feel and look very rich and luxurious.
Yes, and it's a more matte finish versus the TH900's glossy finish. I'm looking at the monitor. It is actually beautiful in the monitor, but not nearly as beautiful as it looks in person.
No, yeah.
And you mentioned high-end dyed goods. I actually was shopping not that long ago for a shirt that was dyed using Awa Aizome, and it was a beautiful shirt, but it was like over $400.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I didn't end up buying it, but it was beautiful. Now, again, it's a more matte finish, but it is gorgeous to look at, but that's not the only departure from the TH900. They've also gone from the dynamic driver in the TH900 back to their roots with headphones and planar magnetic drivers.
Right.
Although for the TH1000RP and the TH1100RP, they're using the largest planar magnetic drivers they've ever made. They increased the number of magnets that sandwich the diaphragm. There's a newly designed pattern and shape for the printed coil. The magnetic circuit components have been redesigned to optimize the magnetic flux distribution, and all of these work together to suppress unwanted resonance in the diaphragm. So big departure there.
Yeah.
Another big departure, the sound signature.
Yeah.
The TH900 had emphasized bass and emphasized treble. And some people might have thought it had too much bass. I thought they were very fun sounding, and I loved them for the time. They were fantastic. I was in love with those headphones. These, no one will say they have too much bass because they have a much leaner signature.
Yeah, they do.
A much leaner signature than the TH900. And but still, lovely in their own way, especially with the mids, lovely treble, beautiful imaging. And probably better imaging on the TH1100RP, which are open back. The TH1000RP might have, a little bit more bass than the TH1100RP. Now, I was looking at HeadFi's forums, and some people were talking about getting a little bit more bass out of them using different ear pads. So I have to explore that. And someone was even talking about doing modifications. So I'm curious about that as well. What is it with Fostex headphones and people modifying them?
I don't know what calls to them.
Yeah, it seems to attract people who want to modify them. But these are, again, very important headphones in our community. New flagship headphones from Fostex should never be missed. So at CanJam, that's big news. I think it was before CanJam SoCal 2024. I'm talking to a talented young headphone engineer. And during the conversation, I asked him, other than the headphones you work on, are there any other headphones that you've been listening to lately that you recommend? And the first one that comes out of his mouth is the FiiO FT1.
Yeah.
He asks, have you heard the FiiO FT1? And it's funny because I remember... I hadn't at the time, by the way. Yeah. So at CanJam Shanghai 2024, you came up to me at the show, and you said, have you heard that FiiO FT1?
Yeah, because I sat down at their exhibit and listened to it, knowing barely anything about it at all. And I thought, this sound signature is right up Jude's alley. Yeah. So I thought for sure you would have already heard it.
Yeah, and you like it too, which is saying something considering it has a richer sound signature.
In my mind, very rich.
Yeah, and you tend to favor... I would say a perceived flat kind of signature.
Yes. Yeah.
And for me, I like some richness. So this is on the richer side of my neutral range. But overall, and this is what that young engineer was telling me as well, is the overall balance is just impressive.
Yeah, the way everything's integrated.
Yeah. Now there is an important specification I do want to mention. Yeah. And that's the price. Here in the U.S. anyway, it's $150.
Yes.
So it's very, very affordable. So for that price, come on. Yeah. I mean, it's so hard not to recommend. You have to try it. So let's talk about what it is. The FiiO FT1, it says here in your notes, first closed back headphone from FiiO.
Yeah, when that had launched, they had already released a few open back headphones, but this was their first foray into closed back, and what a first entrant it is.
Yeah, I agree. The cups are solid wood, American black walnut solid wood cups, beautifully finished wood. The drivers are 60 millimeter dynamic drivers. They're a nanofiber composite diaphragm. 60 millimeters is a pretty large diaphragm.
Yes.
Ultrafine Japanese CCAW voice coil. CCAW is copper-clad aluminum wire. 25 millimeter diameter voice coil. W-shaped suspension gasket. U-shaped acoustic damping tube. 32 ohms. And beautifully packaged for $150 US. Right. That's the case, the carrying case that comes with it. It's actually very, very nice. All the accessories that come with it, as is customary these days with FiiO, beautifully packaged. Now, at CanJam, it's so easy with all the high-end gear we're surrounded with to focus on all that high-end gear and to miss the affordable stuff. But I will say this, FiiO FT1, I know it's really affordable. Don't let that lead you to missing it. In fact, you have to make sure to catch it. This is a can't miss at CanJam.
Now, this is FiiO's FT3. This is FiiO's, I believe, first entry into the full-size audiophile headphone category.
I think you're correct.
And it's an open back headphone. And when they came out with this, I was blown away because I didn't really know what to expect. I knew FiiO would offer good value, but I wasn't expecting this. Now, you might have already guessed, I like this a lot because it definitely falls square within my wheelhouse for signature preferences, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But let's first talk about physically what goes inside of this unit. So inside of it is a 60mm dynamic driver, and that driver is angled, which does a fantastic job for presenting, as you've described, spatial objects, and imaging is wonderful on this headphone.
And that diaphragm is made of DLC, diamond-like carbon.
Yeah, diamond-like carbon, and has a beryllium-plated gasket as well. It has a 350 ohm impedance, so anybody who has an amplifier that can handle high to really high impedance headphones, this is going to pair quite nicely with those.
And there are members in our community who like high impedance headphones.
Absolutely, and this is just a wonderful option in that category. It comes nicely accessorized, so it has a leather carrying case that we have on the table here. It has a carrying pouch as well. As far as terminations, it comes with pretty much anything you could really need, whether it be the cable itself or an adapter. So right out of the box, you'll be able to use it with whatever amplifier you're using at home. It also comes with 2 sets of ear pads, one leather, and then we have I believe they're velour on here.
I think it's velour.
Yeah. I will say both have usable sound signatures, which is very nice because it doesn't feel like one's just an addition that's thrown in. There was clearly thought that went into that voicing for each pad.
Yes.
And then it's also very affordable for a full-size headphone. So like I said, FiiO offers really good value. It's $300.
US.
Yeah, $300 US. When I heard this the first time, I couldn't believe it because the sound signature, like I said earlier, square within my wheelhouse. It's very, very resolving, very detailed, yet it's balanced all the way through. Nice extension on both ends. The positioning of objects is wonderful, and it's just one of those things that I can listen to for hours. And you've mentioned in the past that you could see it also be used as a studio headphone.
Yes.
We have used it here in our studio for work as well as music listening.
Yep.
And it's just a wonderful headphone through and through.
Yeah, I've said before in other preview videos that the FT3, to me, if FiiO keeps it around long enough, will go down as a classic model.
It absolutely will.
The value that it represents is so phenomenal. The way they package it, but especially the way it sounds. Like you said, to me, it's well within my neutrality range.
Yeah.
Images beautifully. Even though it's 350 ohms, don't be intimidated by that because
Right.
it's not a difficult headphone to drive in my opinion, in my experience. And so this, to me, like I've said, if it stays around long enough, I think that's going to be a classic. That's absolutely a can't miss headphone. So this is the Meze Audio Elite.
Yeah.
Still the Meze Audio flagship, but it has recently become even more important to me than it was before. I will explain. So with the release of the Meze Audio Empyrean 2, they went to a more neutral sound signature with the Empyrean.
Yeah.
And it replaced the original Empyrean.
Yep.
And the original Empyrean established this sort of Meze flagship sound as romantic, lush, smooth. I love that signature. You love the more neutral sound of the Empyrean too.
I do.
All right. Well, the Meze Audio Elite, which, by the way, we did a whole dedicated video review of, including measurements, comparisons, the whole bit. This is a refinement of the original lush, romantic Empyrean sound, but they made it more resolving.
Yep.
They made it faster, and it still exists in the line. So that means a lot to me because I do love that original signature so much. So what is it? What's different about it versus the original Empyrean? Well, it uses still a Renaro isodynamic hybrid array driver with the switchback coil design, but it uses a new one called the Renaro, well, new when the Elite came out, the Renaro Paris diaphragm. And that driver takes, I was looking at my notes from our original review, takes over 100 hours to produce.
I'd forgotten that, yeah.
Yeah, it takes forever to produce. It's very precisely made. The diaphragm is also made of what I already mentioned, Renaro Paris. And according to Renaro and Meze, Paris is an innovative low-mass acoustic diaphragm built on an ultra-thin biaxially oriented semicrystalline polymer film. I think we explain that more in the dedicated video, so please do watch it. As I understand it, compared to the Empyrean's diaphragm, for example, it's about 1/3 as thick, and it's quite a bit faster. And I think in the original video that we did about it, we show, I think, the different impulse responses of the two diaphragms, and it's faster. This headphone, if you prefer or want to hear that original lush Meze flagship sound, but with more resolution and speed, the Elite is always going to be a can't miss for as long as it's available.
Now, this is a headphone that kind of shook up the Meze Audio headphone line, the full-size headphones. And I say it was a shake-up because this is a departure from the headphone that came before it. It's the Meze Audio Empyrean 2. And when we hear of a second-generation model, we often think about it being an evolution or a refinement of that original headphone. Well, this is... They've gone a whole new direction with the sound signature.
Yeah, completely new direction.
And in my opinion, they've gone my direction. So the original Empyrean, you've described it before as rich, lush, very, very...
romantic almost, yeah.
I love that word. It's wonderful. This is more linear in terms of tonal balance, more referencey, more neutral, more studio-like, and I love it. I love this headphone. It's wonderful.
Yeah, you know, I was pretty confused because, like you said, we expected a refinement of the original signature.
Yeah.
And that romantic sound, but I think maybe that's what the Elite is for, which is still their flagship, and that was a refinement, more resolving version to my ears of like the original Empyrean. So they have that still.
Yeah,
that's still the flagship. So with this one, like you said, they went to I'd say more studio monitor sound. Now the funny thing is, Meze Audio visited us here at HeadPhi HQ, and Antonio Meze, Mircea Funatsan. And talking to them gave me a clearer insight into what they were doing. Maybe we can talk about that in more detail another time. But this headphone, I think, will have wider appeal, more appeal to more people.
Yeah, I think it's going to have a broader reach.
Yes, and for the people like me who want that original romantic, Empyrean sound, again, there's still the Elite flagship. Yeah. Let's talk about the refinements they did make to this, because there have been obviously changes.
Yeah,
it uses still Renaro isodynamic hybrid array driver with the switchback coil and spiral coil design. Now, that's not just marketing. The design actually works.
Yes.
It actually shows up in the measurements. All right, so it comes with dual flat ear pads, a precise blend of premium leather and Alcantara.
Yeah, those are new for this headphone.
New for this headphone, kind of a flatter, it's not angled.
Yeah.
But you can put angled Alcantara pads on it. But as far as I'm concerned, for the Empyrean 2 right now, those are the pads.
But the other pads do fit.
They do fit.
Yeah.
But those are the pads for it, sonically, to me. Matte black finish with silver accents, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I think we both agree that that's actually an improvement on the original Empyrean's looks, and I love the way the original Empyrean looked.
It is, but the grill work on this is exquisite.
The grill work is insane. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. And so for me, this headphone, if you've listened to Meze Audio's flagships, and they were too romantic, too lush sounding, and you haven't heard the Empyrean 2, that's the headphone you have to hear.
So Meze Audio does have a habit, it seems, of changing things up whenever the time strikes them.
Yeah, they're not shy about that.
No, they're not. And this is another one of those headphones. So this is the Meze Audio Lyric 2. Now, original Lyric owners, a number of them came to Meze Audio and said, we like the Lyric, we love the form factor, but we want something a little thicker, a little lusher, a little more romantic in the sound signature. And Meze Audio said, okay, we'll give it a stab. They went to the drawing board. They introduced what they call the QWRM and a couple other changes. I'll talk about those in a moment here. But they delivered. They brought a headphone out that's a bit richer, a bit lusher, a little bit fuller sounding overall compared to the original Lyric.
Absolutely. Which,
for a portable headphone, and it is portable, I think works great because you're often out and about and you're sometimes fighting those lower frequencies. Having a little bit more emphasis still lets that come through very nicely.
Yes, it does.
I think that's fantastic. So I want to show the QWRM, the quarter wavelength resonator mask that's underneath the pad here. And by the way, this is new, the detachable ear pads. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yes. But the QWRM right here, the mask, they say that the QWRM is a precision crafted metal component that strategically covers select openings in the driver frame to effectively attenuate high frequency peaks above 7 kilohertz for a less fatiguing listening experience. And we've talked in a couple of different videos about how a small tweak in one section of a frequency response can make an overarching difference to the entire presentation of that signature.
Yeah.
So they're trying to maintain lower peaks above 7 kilohertz. They're trying to keep them from getting out of hand.
Right.
And that makes the overall presentation, everything else, feel, lusher, thicker.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And it's just a wonderful little development they came up with, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, they're not shy about making changes.
They're not.
From Empyrean original to Empyrean 2, they went from lush and romantic to neutral studio monitor type sound. From the original Lyric to the Lyric 2, they went the other direction.
They did.
The Lyric, I wouldn't call the original Lyric like perfectly neutral or anything like that,
no.
but certainly more neutral than that.
Yeah.
And then they went from that to a more lush, romantic sound with the Lyric 2.
Because the owners wanted more,
and it's also gorgeous to look at with the wood cups.
Oh, it is. I think it's my Castor Ebony,
Meze Audio continues to surprise us, and they're doing it again with this headphone. This is the Meze Audio 105 IR. IR means air in Romanian. And the 105 IR surprised us both because of how close it comes to the one you're holding, which is the Meze Audio 109 Pro.
Yeah.
Now, that's been out for a while, and it's quite popular. Let's talk about what it is first. Let's start with that one, and then we'll talk about the 105 versus it. The 109 Pro versus other Meze Audio headphones, especially their flagships, is actually on the more affordable side.
Yeah, considerably.
Yeah, and it's also a dynamic headphone versus planar magnetic.
Right.
It's a 50-millimeter dynamic driver made of a carbon fiber enforced cellulose composite. And then the Torus, which is the surround, I believe. The Torus around the dome is composed of beryllium-coated semicrystalline polymer that they say they chose because beryllium's high damping qualities. They say it helps suppress unwanted resonances, giving the 109 Pro its neutral, vivid, and transparent character. Okay, let's talk about its character. To me, it is within my range of neutrality.
Yeah.
But the treble is always on the upper range of my preference.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, depending on what I'm listening to, it can hit me as a little bright in the treble.
And I can definitely see that for you. However, for me, this falls square within my wheelhouse. That's where I like my treble to be.
Yeah, I know. So you prefer the 109 Pro.
I do.
Okay. So the 105 IR, which is quite a bit more affordable than the 109. Okay, let's talk about the physical changes first.
Yeah.
The 109 Pro has wood, which Meze likes to use in some of their things. And it has wood, but it also has a machined metal chassis.
Yes.
I don't remember exactly what it's made of, but it's a beautiful machined metal chassis. This uses a polymer chassis and no wood. On the driver side with the 105 IR, I believe it's a similar driver. I believe it's a 50-millimeter dynamic driver, but they don't use the beryllium Torus, the beryllium-coated Torus. Now, in terms of sound signature, I find them to be quite similar in terms of like very familial, very of a family. But they've smoothed the treble on the 105 IR in a way that I definitely prefer.
Yeah.
I find it to be a more refined treble. I would have to give the ultimate resolution in treble, you know, in terms of between these two to the 109 Pro.
Yeah.
But that smooth treble with the 105 IR is more in my wheelhouse. And I'm not sure if they've adjusted, retuned the bass and mids versus the 109. It could just be perceptual.
It very well might be, yeah.
Because it sounds richer to me, but it might be the change in the treble.
Right.
Anyway, if you're looking for a Meze Audio headphone, you can't afford their flagships, but you love their beautiful headphones, listen to the 109 Pro. And if you like that, you're in good stead because it's quite a bit more affordable than their flagships.
Yeah.
And if you like that signature, you know, quite articulate, I like what they said here about it being vivid and transparent. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But the 105 IR, you're in even better stead if you prefer this because it's quite a bit more affordable, even more affordable than the 109 Pro. And if you want that kind of maybe a smoother signature than the 109 Pro. So these are can't miss headphones at CanJam.
Deconi Audio is best known in our space for their line of premium aftermarket ear pads replaceable for your full-size headphones.
IEM ear tips, too.
They make IEM ear tips. They make full-size headphone cases, which the Savior case is fantastic. We have a number of those around
We
here.
have like a dozen of them now.
Yeah.
They're fantastic cases.
They are. Yeah. And Deconi Audio is getting into a new category in the headphone space, and that excites me. They're getting into cables, and I have one right here. And you're probably wondering, wow, why is that cable so short? Well, when you think about premium replacement headphone cables with swappable terminations, every single time it's swapped at the termination side. And for Deconi Audio, they've gone with a different direction. They're swapping it, they're doing the split at the Y splitter. So they're two separate parts. One stays connected to your headphone, one stays connected to your device, and you can just swap between them back and forth as you needed. They're keyed. They have a locking detent system, and they just snap right into place.
It actually feels nice.
Yeah, and then it locks. And I love that security. So they come in a couple different versions. So what I'm holding here right now is a cloth wrapped silver in a Deconi blue sleeving. They also have a braided silver plated copper cable, and we have that currently connected to the HD660S2 up here on the table. Now you notice we have a couple different headphone models because they have a couple different terminations for the headphone side.
A few different
ones.
Yeah.
So they have 3.5 millimeter dual mono, which we currently have connected to the HIFIMAN. They have the 4-pin mini XLR, which we currently have connected to the ZMF headphones. And they have HD600 family connectors, which we currently have connected to the Sennheiser, and I have it here in my hand.
Okay, can I just talk about that one real quick?
Sure.
That one I think is particularly important because as any longtime HD600 650 owner knows, that's an old school connector.
Very much so.
So it wasn't really made, I don't think, to be removed and inserted a zillion times.
Right.
And so they've been known on the headphone side to wear out if you overdo that.
Yes.
So being able to swap cables and terminations, but leaving the earpiece sides in, the ear side cable plugs in, I think is crucially important, in my opinion, for HD 600, 650 owners.
I agree. And if you pick up multiple headphone connections and then you just pick up a single one of the main line, you can just swap back and forth at the Y split. You're not going to have to worry about toggling things back and forth. It also actually ends up saving you a little bit because you're buying less cabling in the long run.
Right.
Now, as far as on the other end of the cable, it comes in a 4.4 millimeter connection or a 6.35 or quarter-inch connection. They've talked about looking at other connectors for future lines. We might potentially see something like a 4-pin XLR down the road. We might see other connectors for headphones, like hopefully maybe an HD 800 potentially down the road. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out from these. However, the nice thing is you can bring your headphones to CanJam, pop over and give the Dakoni Audio Ensemble cables a try, find out if they're going to work for your rig. Now, Head Audio, HEDD Audio, they are no strangers to Head-Fi and CanJam. We've seen them at a number of shows. And if you look back at CanJam London 2023, that's where they launched the second generation of their headphone, which is their Air Motion Transformer headphone model. Well, the Headphone 2, that came out at CanJam London 2023, and they had a queue all weekend long, constantly in front of their table. CanJam London, that kind of got a repeat at CanJam SoCal 2024 when they released the Headphone 2 GT. Now, you've probably heard the term GT before, Gran Turismo or Grand Touring. It's, to me, that invokes the feel of comfort and relaxation and distance driving in a vehicle. And they were getting a lot of feedback from headfires and non-headfires alike that the Headphone 2, which is more of a studio headphone, isn't really something that they would listen to for long periods of time. They wanted something a little more mid-range presence, a little more low end, something a little more comfortable. So they said, okay, let's take that feedback, go back, make some tweaks. That came out with the Headphone 2 GT. Now, at CanJam SoCal 2024, they were at the headphones.com exhibit, and there was a constant line for that headphone. I didn't get to hear it myself because it was just steady all weekend long.
I didn't get to hear it either.
Yeah.
So Head is known for their AMT drivers. That's Air Motion Transformer drivers.
Yeah.
Very resolving drivers. Very fast.
Yeah.
Very resolving.
Mm-hmm.
The Headphone 2, that one, I enjoy that headphone immensely.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
But it is quite incisive.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about the description of the GT from Head.
Yeah.
The GT adopts the analytical clarity of the 2, adding a warmer sonic signature and premium comfort experience. The new air compliance tuning system creates impactful bass alongside a warmer mid-range and sparkling top end.
And that's such a you sound based on the description.
Yeah, that's a me description.
Yeah.
And you might actually, just based on the description, prefer the original 2.
Given that, I think I'm probably going to lean more towards the 2.
Okay, so the CanJam SoCal 2024 impressions thread seems to bear that out.
That's
From what
true.
I've seen,
Yeah.
It seems to be consistent with what Head is describing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's something I need to hear. I didn't hear it either at CanJam SoCal 2024. So, I think for both of us now at this CanJam, we have to make sure to hear it.
Yep.
This is the DUNU Arashi.
Yeah.
This is the rare headphone that we both have listened to, both love, and that we wouldn't change anything about.
Exactly.
Okay, it's rare that happens because Brian and I have rather divergent tastes.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to find what I like rich sounding, I tend to find what you like lean sounding, yet here we are with a headphone that we both totally agree on in its default state.
Oh, yeah.
All right, this is the DUNU Arashi. It's DUNU's first full-size over-ear headphone. It is a planar magnetic headphone. Before I get to the guts of it, I want to talk about the outside of it because it is beautiful.
It really is.
It's beautifully built, first of all. The build quality is beautiful.
Yeah, it's very solid in the hand.
Extremely solid in the hand. And I love the way it looks. Don't know how it shows up on camera, but it is a beautiful headphone. Reminds me of the original Stax Omega.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like it has to be. I haven't asked DUNU, but I bet you it's influenced by that.
Yeah.
And that's a high compliment because it's a beautiful headphone. But to be clear, this is not electrostatic. Again, it's planar magnetic. All right, let's talk about the guts now. It uses something they describe as a multi-layer composite film diaphragm. DUNU mentions damping, rigidity, and elasticity layers. Fine voice coil, very thin, high-quality coil. And they say the fine voice coil significantly enhances micro detail performance and overall dynamics. It has a dual-sided magnetic circuit, and it is quite sensitive, DUNU points out. It is. Even pointing out that Arashi will perform well with many high-end portable players.
Right.
There are other planar magnetic headphones that I'll use with portable players. It's just you don't often see the manufacturers of a full-size planar magnetic headphone specifically pointing that out.
Exactly.
26 ohms, 500 grams, so reasonable weight. All right, let's talk about how it sounds.
Yeah.
All right, so why do we both love the way this sounds, which doesn't happen often, without EQ. Neither of us EQs this headphone. Solidly neutral is how I described it. You agree?
Yes.
So we haven't measured it, so I don't know exactly how it measures, but we both describe it as solidly neutral. And solid doesn't just mean within my range of neutrality solidly. It also means it has a solidity to its sound.
That's true.
Bass extended, but not emphasized, at least that I hear. I don't hear emphasis,
Right.
but the solidity sometimes maybe gives it that sense that it might be. Again, I don't really know how it measures. So, but that's why I think that we both have landed on this
I think so.
well. All right. And again, I say, I don't know why I repeated myself, but perceived flat tuning, almost dead center of what I'd call dead center neutral. So there you go, a neutral headphone. I could see this being used, for example, in a professional setting.
Oh, absolutely.
As a monitoring headphone, but it's just a beautiful audiophile headphone as well, image as well. But that solidity I really love. And it sounds like a headphone that's taken years to develop. Congratulations, DUNU. So what's the price? Like,
I think $13.99 US.
So $1,400 US. I would say for planar magnetic headphones in that price range, the DUNU Arashi is ultra competitive.
It definitely is. Now, there's a headphone that I believe you and I are in agreement that it is the main, pretty much the only wireless active noise cancellation headphone that we listen to primarily for music. Not where active noise cancellation is the priority, not where microphones are the priority, but music listening, and that's the Focal Batiste. And I'm happy to say, and a bit surprised to say, that it actually has competition from a source we wouldn't expect to see competition from. This is the Noble Audio Focus Apollo. And for those of you that are listening thinking, what? Noble Audio is primarily a company known for in-ear monitors.
Yeah, pretty much that's all they're known for the most part.
They're known for in-ear monitors, and they've stepped into the full-size headphone field, and I think they did a fantastic job with this. So this is the Noble Audio Focus Apollo. It is an active noise cancellation wireless headphone, and for those of you who are looking for wireless headphones, just know real quick that it has about 80 hours of battery life, 60 with ANC turned on, which is fantastic.
Yes.
But sound-wise, the reason why I think this is going to give the Focus, it's going to give the Batiste a run for its money is because of the fact that it just sounds fantastic. So the default signature on this, for my ears, to my preferences, it's a little bit thick, a little bit bassy. However, there are some EQ options in the app, and I'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, for my tastes, and I tend to like obviously more bass emphasis, more bass energy than you do.
Yeah.
But it is a richer tone.
It is.
But I would call it a clean rich.
Yeah, it's definitely clean.
Okay.
So there's also some really cool functions with this. So I mentioned the EQ app, and again, I'll get back to that in a second, but it has Bluetooth 5.3 with multi-point. So if you're using it wirelessly, you have a lot of options available to you as far as devices because that supports LDAC, Snapdragon Sound, AAC aptX, and aptX HD. And with the active noise cancellation mode, it also does have a transparency mode, which allows you to hear and observe some of the world around you through the headset, which is a nice function to have.
Yeah, certainly at the office here.
Exactly.
You should be able to hear me.
I don't want to. And going back to that EQ app, so they have several presets inside the EQ app. I found myself gravitating right away towards one that they called Jazz. And I thought with the Jazz EQ equipped, in this headset, it's a fantastic sound.
Yeah, so there is a personalization, like you can customize the EQ. Neither of us has used that yet.
Yes.
So I was looking more just at the presets.
Mm-hmm.
And of all the presets there, for me, it's going to be Jazz. Like you said, it just takes a little bit of thickness out of it, cleans it up a little bit. But for me, that's the one preset I'd use, and I use it either in the default sound setting, which is really nice for me.
Yep.
Or Jazz.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also has a detachable boom microphone, which is really nice for anybody that's on the go. And it has a wired USB-C connectivity for anybody who wants to have a wired connection. Now, with that USB-C, it also has what they call zero latency mode for gaming. So if you're a mobile gamer, the boom microphone paired with your mobile devices, it's going to be nice to have that on the go, especially with, a long battery life. You're not going to have to worry about much. Definitely stop by Noble Audio's exhibit and give this one a listen.
This is the Warwick Acoustics Bravura.
Yeah.
This is an electrostatic headphone and part of an electrostatic headphone system. I will explain that in just a minute. So the Bravura, I love this headphone, by the way. I think this is probably right up your alley, too.
Yeah, it is.
So this is the successor to a model that was released many years ago now called the Sonoma Model 1. Now, the Sonoma Model 1 was a good headphone.
Yeah.
It was a good first effort. And that was also, of course, an electrostatic headphone. And that one I found to be on the bright, lean side.
Mm-hmm.
I also felt that its headband was a bit uncomfortable. It had very high caliper pressure on my fat head.
Right.
All right. So this one, though, is a lot more comfortable. So let's start with that. That you can see the headband, if you've ever seen the Model 1, this is quite an evolution just on the headband design.
Oh, yeah.
Way more comfortable. But even more importantly was whatever they did to the driver. makes this a much better sounding headphone.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they did specifically, but it's substantially better. So let's talk about that driver, because it's still the same driver technology that they innovated for the development of the Model 1.
Mm-hmm.
But again, clearly they've evolved it. That driver is called HPEL, High Precision Electrostatic Laminate Transducers. And unlike conventional transducers, the HPEL, according to them, uses a laminated film that is just 15 microns thick, and the film is affixed to a cell structure and machine tensioned with extreme accuracy to create small sound-producing drum skins. And then their software fine-tunes each drum skin for optimal resonant frequencies. And then, to ensure that it doesn't bend and to maintain a strong structure, they encase the driver in a super rigid polycarbonate cassette. So again, this uses HPEL still, but whatever they did with all of that I was just talking about in the Bravura is much better done than with the Model 1. So this, I would say, okay, they say it's voiced with studios and professional work in mind. Can you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
I can too. So I think this, again, would be right up your alley. I would say it's in the range of neutrality, much more refined sounding for sure than the Model 1. This is a better headphone. So if you've heard the Model 1 at any of the shows, don't assume anything about the Bravura from that. Okay. So I mentioned that it's an electrostatic headphone system. That's because the Bravura comes as a system with the Sonoma M1 DAC amp that uses 32-bit ESS Sabre DACs in dual mono design, 32-bit multi-channel ADC with balanced input buffers because the inputs are all ADC'd, 64-bit fixed point digital signal processing, Class A amplifier. Not everybody wants to work hard to assemble a system.
No, some just want a turnkey solution.
And that's what this is. It's a turnkey electrostatic headphone system I think it's fantastic. So at CanJam, when you have a chance to listen to the Warwick Acoustics Bravura, do not miss it. What a wonderful electrostatic headphone system.
CanJam Hong Kong is going to be massive, and there will be a number of headphones for you to audition that we haven't yet mentioned. For example, you'll be able to find electrostatic headphones like the ES2A from ES Lab, FiiO's new FT7 open back planar magnetic headphone, the Zeus and Zeus Elite from Harmonic Dyne, HIFIMAN's latest unveiled headphone, the Aria Unveiled, and T+A's Solitaire P wired and Solitaire T wireless headphones, just to name a few. Again, that's not everything you'll find at CanJam Hong Kong this year, but it's a list that'll certainly get you started.
So, Brian, that's the FiiO S15, and when it was announced, we were both pretty surprised.
Right.
So I was surprised because I didn't know FiiO was going to be releasing a full-size desktop dedicated media streamer, media server component. I did not know. And so I was pleasantly surprised. I have been increasingly interested in incorporating a dedicated streamer into my system, mostly because a few of my hi-fi friends, including Ethan, who goes by Third Eye on the forums, he produces our CanJam shows, has been telling me I need to incorporate a streamer in my system.
Right.
And he uses an Inuos. We've had an Inuos come through here.
Yeah. We had a Hi-Fi Rose as well.
Hi-Fi Rose, Eversolo.
Yes.
We've never had them long enough to live with.
Right.
All right. Now I've had this one long enough to live with, and I will say I get it. All right. So let's talk about what it is. Again, it's a fully balanced desktop high-res audio streamer. Functionality-wise, so much functionality, but it has media streamer, local playback, decoder, preamplifier. It is fully balanced. The architecture is fully balanced, including everything from the DAC decoding to the preamplifier stage. So the whole thing fully balanced. I love that it has a preamplifier functionality.
Right.
That is not entirely common in all streamers. So I love having that. I'll get to that in a minute. The DAC is built around AKM's flagship AK4191 and AK4499EX combo. So flagship AKM setup for the DAC. That's lovely. Snapdragon 660 processor, reasonably snappy performance, which I like.
Yep.
And then dominating that front panel, as you can see, is a very large screen for this type of device. 7.84-inch touchscreen display. They say that it's automotive grade, which I can understand because it's quite bright and responsive. And it has capacitive navigation buttons on the side, and then it is a touchscreen. Audiophile grade components inside. No big surprise from FiiO.
Yep.
Elna audio capacitors. I'm not going to name them all. Dual high-performance, ultra-low noise femtosecond crystal oscillators, WEMA film capacitors, and a 35-watt low-noise linear power supply
Yeah, built in.
built in. So you guys who like to try to find linear power supplies for your devices, you're not going to need to. There's one built in.
Yep.
And there's just so many other components. I'm not going to list them all here because it looks like an audiophile parts inventory.
Yeah, it does.
Full digital, analog, and power separation.
I love seeing that.
I do too. So what I mean is those sections, the digital, analog, and power sections, are all physically separated and shielded from each other.
Right.
And yes, like you, I love when they do that. Android 12, streaming app support, full Google Play Store. I came in the other day, and you were running YouTube on the built-in screen.
Oh yeah, because I wanted it as background music. It was great.
So he was watching and listening to YouTube on the built-in screen. I thought that was funny. Input, so many inputs. I'm not going to list those all either. USB optical coax AES, Bluetooth 5.1. We love that it supports Bluetooth.
Yes.
SD card slot, and USB 3.2 M2 SSD expansion.
Right.
All right. When you told me it had that, I said, I want to be able to store music locally on it, which is what it's for. And we went out and got a 4 terabyte SSD to put in that slot, which is nice that it goes right into it, and filled it with 4 terabytes of outstanding music. Well, you might not like all my music, but anyway, 4 terabytes of music. And I love that I can listen to that separate from a computer setup, just completely separate from anything, that it's a standalone media server at that point. HDMI ARC decoding, which you love.
Yep.
Right now it's here, but when I get home, it's going to be back on my desk. Yeah. And it's right next to me. But one of the things I think might happen is I might start using it because it's hard for me to not want to use all of that functionality and put it in the front of my living room, maybe.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to do that. Digital outputs. I don't think I mentioned that yet. Did I mention that?
No.
Optical coax, HDMI, I2S, AES, analog outputs, 2 stereo RCA sets, and balanced XLR. So there's no built-in headphone amp. So know that. But because of that preamp functionality, one of the things that I really enjoy with it is that I can use it. We have some amps here that require a preamp, that they don't have their own built-in volume functionality. And this, I love using it for that.
Yeah.
So that's cool. 10-band high precision, parametric EQ, companion app compatible. So this, Ethan, I'm listening to you. You've been telling me I need to get a dedicated media streamer in my system. So why is it better? First of all, it sounds fantastic. Like with the amps I've tried it with. Right. And it sounds fantastic for what it is, even separate from that. And maybe one of the reasons is something Ethan mentioned to me, is that it's separate from a computer. It's separate from anything else. It's all of this top-notch hardware, top-notch components inside this device, dedicated to only that purpose. Unlike in your computer where it's doing 3 billion other things. Yeah. Especially my computer where everybody teases me for how many windows I keep open. Yep. And maybe that's something to do with it. But here's what I'll say. I'm starting to get it big time. And I think it CanJam. When you have a chance to check out the FiiO S15, do so. Even if you never thought of incorporating a device like this into your systems, I think like me, you absolutely will once you've played with it there, and ask them to show you around the different functionality. Fantastic device.
So this is FiiO's JM21, and I'm going to say something right up front because it's going to be relevant the entire time I'm talking about this. This is $179. Keep that in mind for all of this, okay? So the FiiO JM21 features dual Cirrus Logic CS43198 DACs inside. It has a fully balanced amplifier design up to 700 milliwatts at 32 ohms if you're using high gain. So good amount of power. It's not going to drive the most demanding of headphones, but it can drive a lot.
Yeah, most of what you drive with a DAP.
Exactly. Yeah. It has 4.4 millimeter and 3.5 millimeter output, which is very nice to have. It's snappy. It has a Snapdragon 680 octa-core CPU that's paired with 3 gigabytes of memory and 32 gigabytes of internal storage. It's running Android 13, so a very modern version of Android. It has a 4.7-inch HD touchscreen, and it's only 13 millimeters thick, and this is light. It's 156 grams. Again, only $179.
Yeah, I know.
It has two-way Bluetooth 5.0, and it supports SBC, AAC, aptX, aptX HD, LHDC, and LDAC, and it also has USB-C DAC support. Again, $179. And it has a 2400 milliamp hour battery, which gives you an estimated 12.5 hours of listening time if you're listening single-ended, up to about 9.5 hours if you're running balanced, and it only takes 2 hours for a full charge. Now, it does come with a clear, transparent case, but I did see on the Head5 forums that FiiO is also selling a PU leather upgraded case for this. It's only $9. What the heck is going on here? So, with an DAP this affordable, I thought I have to find some highly affordable pairing IEMs that I think would be very good combinations with this. So I reached immediately for a FiiO that I purchased on my own, a FiiO JD10. It's kind of a bassier, kind of a bass head audiophile-ish sound signature. That's a great pairing, and I think I paid $10 for that or something very, very affordable. Then I decided, let's go a little more expensive, and I reached for that Kiwi Ear Singolo. Again, what the heck? This thing sounds phenomenal. You can even pair it with some more expensive IEMs and still get excellent sound out of this thing. Again, $179. I can't believe it.
$179 US.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is that's another, I don't know how they do it. So you raise so many good points. I don't know how FiiO did that.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, it's also a great candidate is, for example, if you just blew everything you had on a high-end IEM, you've got nothing left, and you don't want to get divorced.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fantastic thing. You have to check it out at CanJam.
This is the FiiO K17, and as you well know, I've fallen in love with this FiiO K17. So let's talk about what it is. The FiiO K17 is a fully balanced desktop DAC amp. I love that it has a relatively compact footprint because, as you know, I don't really have much room on any of my desks, so that's always nice. Now, the DAC section of the FiiO K17 is built around AKM's flagship AK4191, AK4499EX combo, and there are two of the AK4499EXs in there, so the DAC section is extremely capable on the K17. But the amp section is also very capable. It's actually a discrete Class AB transistor amplifier circuit. I love that it's a discrete design. I love that it outputs up to 4,000 milliwatts. It has quite a bit of drive. And I also love the fact that it's so flexible in its drive and so quiet in terms of self-noise that I can plug the most sensitive in-ears into it. No self-noise whatsoever. It's what I call, that amp helps it become what I call a reviewer's amp. In that you can plug anything into it, including hard to drive over ears or, like I said, super sensitive in-ears. I love the flexibility of FiiO's desktop components these days. They have so many inputs and outputs. For example, the USB inputs on this. Back and front.
Yes, I love seeing USB-C on the front because if I have something like a phone or a laptop that I don't want to get behind the unit and plug it in, I could just sit down, quickly plug it in, get to listening.
Exactly. My main computer is plugged into the USB-C input on the back. And on the front, if I want to use, like you mentioned, like a tablet or a DAP or my phone and just DAC it really quickly using the K17, it's nice to have that front access. So that's a lovely thing. And then, again, a slew of inputs and outputs. It also has Bluetooth, which we both actually really appreciate.
And networking support.
Oh, yeah, networking support. Ethernet, Wi-Fi. And it's dual band, 2.4G, 5G. I do love that it has, for balanced headphone outputs, as well as unbalanced, by the way, but it has 4.4 millimeter and XLR.
Yes, it's nice to see both.
Again, makes it more of a reviewer's amp. Right? So no matter what you have, you can plug it in. Okay. Now, on Head5's forums, FiiO confirmed for somebody who asked if this was the successor of the very popular FiiO K9 Pro, and they said, yes, it is.
Okay, they look nothing alike.
They look nothing alike. And the K9 Pro is immensely popular. But the K17, and something I love about it, is it has that retro look.
Yes.
It has that retro look, and it's also a retro sort of touchy-feely thing, too, with the knobs. So, for example, the gain settings that I talked, 5 different gain settings on that amp, from, low to whatever the highest is, like ultra or decibel. I don't remember what they call the highest setting. And it's done with a knob that has such a nice feel. And I like having that instead of going through a menu setting to change gain settings. I love that it's just a knob. And the funny thing about it is the screen also looks kind of retro. It's kind of this basic looking screen, but that's also just, kind of the style. If you swipe left or right, and it is a touch screen, which may not be obvious when you first look at it, and it comes with a remote, but you can swipe left or right on the touch screen, and it just unveils, like right away, a slew of options. Right? So anyways, we won't get into that. But one of the options we should mention, 31-band high-precision lossless PEQ, a parametric EQ, including some presets, which are nice. I actually used the Jazz preset with a headphone that I was driving with it just before we shot this. And I should also mention, as with anything from FiiO these days, especially in terms of their electronics, they use the highest quality components inside. And this thing is loaded.
Yeah.
All you have to do is look through those top vents, and you can see the electronics go like right up just underneath the top surface. So I bet you if we open this thing up, it probably just has layers of stuff going on inside.
Yeah.
So the FiiO K17 to me is so easy to fall in love with. I think it's a fantastic successor to the K9 Pro. I love the retro look and feel. It's a very exciting piece. You can see why I've fallen in love with it. It's a can't miss it CanJam.
Now, we've talked a number of times in the past about FiiO's engineering prowess, what they manage to achieve at different price points, and what they can pull off. When they can go all out, like a flagship like the K19, oh, they can do some incredible things.
Yes.
So inside the K19, there are two of ESS's ES9039S Pro DACs, and it has the THX AAA 788 Plus amplifier in there, the circuit from THX. They're one of their flagship model circuits.
Yes.
And this thing is beefy. So it can deliver up to 8,000 milliwatts into 32 ohms, I believe, using what's called ultra high gain. It's just sick because it can deliver so much power into pretty much any hard to drive headphone.
Pretty much anything.
Yeah.
And I've tried pretty much anything with it and succeeded every time. Put it in low gain mode with IEMs.
Yeah.
No noise. So it'll drive literally anything. This is a reviewer's amp. We've talked about that concept before, like a reviewer who'd use anything and you want to be able to plug anything into it. This is that.
Yeah. And they also had some really cool features that you may not have expected from FiiO. So, for example, it has some incredible DSP. It has a 31 band PEQ. So, and that's a high precision PEQ. So if you're doing equalization, that's built right in. You don't need to use any external processing for that, all right in the hardware. It also has something that I absolutely adore seeing because it has HDMI ARC, which is audio return channel. So if it's like me, or if you're like me and you have a small desk, you have very limited amount of space, you can connect something like a PlayStation or an Xbox, Apple TV, Blu-ray player, PC, whatever, to your TV or monitor. And as long as that device has an HDMI ARC out channel, you run it to this, and you have a full command system with basically just a couple of cables and not a lot of components or wiring necessary. Very simple, and I love seeing that because I can absolutely make use of that at home.
Now, Brian is the kind of person who actually does use it in that use case.
Yeah.
For me, I use the K19 just in a very simple mode. DAC amp. I use it as a DAC amp.
Yeah.
No fancy connections. And it's fantastic in that role. When you think about what FiiO, like you said, with their engineering prowess, brings to products at lower price points, like incredible value.
Yeah.
Like you said, when they go flagship, which for them, $1,200 for this, which is relatively affordable as a desktop components go, but for FiiO is quite expensive.
Yes.
So when FiiO unleashes, like we didn't even list some of the parts in here. If we were to rattle off some of these part numbers you have listed in the show notes, all sorts of flagship parts inside of this thing. Fantastic, the K19. I use it all the time. I've said countless times before that FiiO's engineering capabilities, their R&D facilities, just the capacity they bring engineering-wise, I love what they do. They use that to bring fantastic performance, but at the most affordable price possible at every level of performance.
Yeah.
I feel like the FiiO M23, what I'm holding here, this portable digital audio player is kind of the epitome of that. It's kind of one of the epitomes of that. They have several products I would describe that way.
Yeah, but that one falls towards the middle of the DAP line.
Yeah, I would actually say it's quite affordable.
Yeah.
But yet it uses flagship class components inside. So for example, the DAC. On the DAC section, AKM flagship combo DAC, the AK4191 EQ plus AK4499 EX.
Yeah.
This is a DAC combo that we pretty much only see in flagship players. But here it's in a relatively affordable player. 4-channel THX AAA 78 plus amplifier circuit.
Yep.
Phenomenal. Up to 1,000 milliwatts at 32 ohms in desktop mode. I'll explain desktop mode in a second. 64 gigs of storage, expandable via micro SD to 2 terabytes. 5.5-inch multi-touch HD display, which is actually a nice bright display and actually quite large.
Yeah, and very snappy.
Yes, the interface is quite snappy. I don't know what kind of CPU they're using in this. I don't know that offhand, but it is a very snappy user interface, which for me is very, very important for you too.
Yes.
Dual power supply when using external USB power. That's that thing I was referring to earlier, desktop mode. If you use USB power into it, you get a little bit more output in desktop mode. Again, up to 1,000 milliwatts into 32 ohms. 3.5 millimeter and 4.4 millimeter headphone outputs. 2-way high-res Bluetooth via aptX HD and LDAC.
And I always appreciate when that's an option.
I always appreciate the wireless options. Blue titanium or stainless steel finishes available. I am colorblind, but I'm pretty sure this is blue titanium.
It is.
Up to 10.5 hours of battery life. And I love... That's realistic, by the way.
Yeah.
And I love how FiiO's standby mode is like a real good standby mode.
Oh, yeah.
In other words,
ages.
yeah, you turn off the screen, set it down, pick it up even a day later,
Yeah.
and it's still on and ready to go. And not a lot of DAPs do that. So I love that they do that. So for the price, I don't care what, and for the level of performance especially, even if you're shopping for cost no object DAPs,
Yep.
still listen to the FiiO M23 if you get a chance at CanJam. Because even though you're willing to spend a lot more money, you might find the M23 satisfies you because it will drive just about anything that you'd reasonably drive with a DAP beautifully.
Lay-In Audio will be bringing a brand new flagship class tube amplifier from xDuoo to CanJam Hong Kong this year, along with a few Headfire favorite portables from xDuoo. Let's take a look at the xDuoo XD05T, the xDuoo XD05 Pro, and the all-new xDuoo TA32 that you'll be able to audition at Lay-In Audio's exhibit.
This is the xDuoo XD05T.
Right.
There are a few different XD05 models, but when I see the letter T, know it stands for tube, they have my interest. I'm in. So this is a portable DAC amp, and the DAC is based on dual ESS ES9039 Q2M DACs.
Yes.
Very nice. But the amp. So the amp, you can see the two tubes in there.
Yeah.
They're real tubes, and they are two vintage tubes from the 1960s.
Yes.
And they're rare. That's all we know from xDuoo. That's all they've told us. So we don't know the specific tube model or number, but we know they're vintage tubes from the 60s and they're rare. And they sound beautiful, by the way. So in this circuit, it sounds gorgeous. It outputs up to 1,500 milliwatts per channel. But this is a cool spec. At 300 ohms, into 300 ohms, it will still deliver up to 556 milliwatts. And that's from its balanced output. That's an important spec. I'll get to that in just a minute. It has 2 precision volume chips, 99 steps of volume adjustment. So when you're using sensitive IEMs, that's very nice to have.
Yes.
For some fine adjustment of the volume. It supports USB, coax, optical, and Bluetooth inputs. So Bluetooth is something we always appreciate.
Yes.
And for Bluetooth, it has aptX, aptX HD, aptX low latency, and LDAC. Very, very nice in that respect. Now, I want to talk about its use. It has 3 different gain settings. They call it turbo switch for high, medium, and low impedance headphones. For IEMs, dead quiet. So sensitive IEMs to not sensitive IEMs, plug it in on low, no noise. So no self-noise from this amp.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So again, love that I can do that today. But that spec that I mentioned earlier is a big deal because from its balanced outputs up to 556 milliwatts into 300 ohms in high from balanced. Think of the Sennheiser HD800, HD800S. Drives it beautifully. And that's something that you don't often get from portable amps. That's a lot of drive into 300 ohms for any amp, let alone a portable. So that's a cool thing to have. There is another feature I really like, which is a bass switch.
Yeah.
You're not apt to use bass switches.
It doesn't exist for me.
Yeah, I know. But Brian likes his bass pretty much perceived flat and only that. I like a little bass lift most of the time. And for a headphone like the HD800 especially, that's something I might want. Or a Utopia, an original Utopia. That's something I might be apt to want. Actually, I tried it just before we shot with the Head HEDD Headphone 2. Yeah. That sounds lovely at low listening levels with bass boost. I've EQ'd that into those headphones before. With this, I just flip a switch, and the bass switch does that for me. But this is a wonderful portable DAC amp. You know, a lot of people they like to focus on measurements. Tube amps are never going to measure as good as solid-state amps. Sure. But I'm going to say something about that. There are a good tube amp in some ways somehow gets you closer to the music and is therefore sometimes more resolving than even the best solid-state amps at a given price range. And I will say, check out the XD05T with your favorite IEMs or even with some great headphones and try it, because then you might understand what I'm talking about there. What a wonderful thing. Don't miss the XD05T at CanJam.
Now, I want to take a second to talk about something that's not new. However, it's something that I've been curious about for quite a while, because this is a piece, the xDuoo XD05 Pro, that we've seen the community talking about for quite a while now.
It's immensely popular.
It is,
community.
And I'm learning for very good reason.
Yeah.
So the XD05 Pro is a balanced transportable DAC amp combo, and inside of this is an ESS ES9039 S Pro DAC. Now, like some of xDuoo's other products, it is also a swappable DAC, so you have the option of also using an AKM AK4499 EX DAC or the Roam BD34301, but again, this has the ESS inside of here. power, it can output up to 2,000 milliwatts per channel when you're running in the high gain mode. And one of the cool things about this too is it has user replaceable amp chips. So if you want to do like some op amp swapping to get a little bit of a different flavor of sound there, you have that option as well. I do appreciate the ability to tinker around a little bit. It has 4.4 millimeter and 6.35 millimeter headphone outputs. So pretty much everything you're going to be using transportably is covered here. Inputs, USB, coax, optical, Bluetooth, and that Bluetooth covers aptX, aptX HD, aptX low latency, and LDAC, which is always appreciated.
It is.
Now, one of the cool things about the gain modes here is they say that the gain modes are specifically targeting more devices than anything really. So like, for example, right now I'm in what's called eco mode. That's the green lights that you see here. That's for more IEM listening. If you want to switch up to normal mode, that's the blue lighting, and that's for headphones and less sensitive things. And then they also have what's called turbo mode. It goes red. So, red for power. And the turbo mode is for anything up to about 300 ohms. So you have a wide range of devices that are fully compatible with this. I've been listening to it primarily in normal mode and switching back and forth between eco and normal here and there. Now, it does have separate USB-C for power and data, but one of the cool things about this device also is that if you see on the back here, it has a power input for a linear power supply. So if you happen to have a compatible linear power supply, you can run in what's called desktop mode, and they say that improves the sound quality as well. I don't have one of those here, so I couldn't really test that.
Right.
I do like seeing those components separated because that means typically inside, which is true, those components are also separated, which is better for the sound.
Oh, very cool.
Very nice to have. They even take it a step farther. If you want to charge this thing, you have to toggle specifically to charge it up. There's a lot of thought going into this. And finally, I got to say, this thing comes accessorized like crazy. So many cables and adapters and options. It even comes with swappable op amps inside, a little screwdriver to do all the changes yourself. You can come around back here and just pop these open, swap out the components, whether you're changing out the DAC, changing out the op amps. It's very well thought out. And also, I love the fact that there's a little display right inside the volume knob.
That is cool.
It's a cool little touch, and that one's always on, and the display on top is turned on when you're interacting with it. All in all, I can definitely understand why this gets so much love in our community for very good reason, and I'm going to be carrying this around a lot more, I think.
Yeah, so a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, with the kind of output it has, you can drive over ears.
Yes.
With in-ears, though, you said there was that low mode. Have you found it to be really good with in-ears as well?
Yeah, it's very good with in-ears. I didn't try anything ultra-sensitive with
Okay.
it. However, the in-ears that I usually have in my rotation, it does work very well with those, so I'm definitely happy with it, and I could definitely recommend it to an in-ear enthusiast as well.
Now, Brian, if you look around us, if you look behind us, anybody who's watching our videos a lot knows there's a tube audio thing going on in this office.
That is true.
Yeah, you like tube audio gear.
Yeah.
I am definitely more the tube audio enthusiast in this office.
Right.
And this is the xDuoo TA32. I love this thing. For what they charge for this, it's fantastic. Let's talk about what it is. The xDuoo TA32 is a desktop DAC and tube balanced headphone amplifier, simply put. The DAC section's built around the Roam BD34301 EKV DAC. Now, it is modular, so you can swap out other xDuoo DAC modules. We've only used the stock module, this Roam DAC module. I will say this. I've enjoyed this as a DAC. I have not felt any need to swap in any other external DACs with it.
Okay.
So enjoying this as a DAC. But now let's talk about the amp, because I think that's where a lot of the magic comes with this. The TA32's amp uses two ECC82 tubes, or 12AU7 tubes, for signal amplification. And the post stage uses high-quality transistors as a Class A buffer.
Yeah.
So that it has the delicacy and richness of tubes combined with the speed and robustness of solid state. Mission accomplished. Inside, by the way, they use really high-quality components. Not surprising if you're familiar with xDuoo. So you'll see things like Japanese components, for example, from Elna and Nichikan.
Nice.
Now, from its unbalanced output, the TA32 can drive up to 2,300 milliwatts into 32 ohms. And from its balanced outputs, up to 3,000 milliwatts into 32 ohms. So again, mission accomplished. Has a lot of drive, and it does sound very tubey in a good way.
Yep.
And I want to get to that, because now if you're familiar with the xDuoo TA22, which I haven't heard or used myself, but I think a lot of xDuoo enthusiasts are familiar with the TA22. The TA32, one key difference between that and the 22 is it has tube rectification. So xDuoo added tube rectification to the tube amp on the TA32, and I love them for it. So it uses the 5U4G tube for rectification. And anybody familiar with tube rectified amps versus chip rectified or silicon rectified amps knows that in general, tube rectified amps have a certain tubiness, a certain
Yeah.
lushness, and I mean that in all the best ways possible. So loving this thing. I've used it with the Focal Utopia 2022.
Mhm.
Love it with that. Great pairing, because that can be a very fast sounding headphone, sometimes ruthlessly resolving.
Yeah.
Even if it's more forgiving than its original, the original Utopia, but still beautiful pairing. Dan Clark Audio Stealth, another beautiful pairing. That's one of my closed references. Now, for IEMs,
Mhm.
if all you use is IEMs, this would not be my first recommendation.
Right.
But it works well with IEMs as long as they're like moderate sensitivity or less sensitive IEMs. Plug it in, you'll get a little of that microphonic noise come through, but it dies down very quickly
Mhm.
to almost no noise as long as it's moderately or less sensitive. So it works very well. I was using it with the melodic artification alter egos, sounded
Yeah.
beautiful with those, and the Forte Ears Macbeths before we were shooting here, sounds beautiful with those. But if all you use is IEMs, there are more purpose-built IEM-friendly tube amps and DAC amps and things like that to consider. All right. So this, to me, for the price, a tube-rectified xDuoo DAC amp, love it. It also, by the way, I should mention that though I used USB mostly with it, it also has AES, coax, optical, and Bluetooth.
Right.
And you and I both always appreciate Bluetooth
Yeah.
capabilities, and this has aptX, aptX HD, aptX low latency, and LDAC. So that's another thing that's just a bonus as far as I'm concerned. So the xDuoo TA32 can't miss for tube audio enthusiasts at CanJam, or if you just want to hear a really lovely tube implementation and you're not as familiar with tube amps, another, again, for you even, a can't miss.
HIFIMAN is one of our CanJam Hong Kong sponsors this year, and we would like to extend a special thank you to HIFIMAN for helping make CanJam Hong Kong possible. HIFIMAN's family of source products include dedicated amplifiers, R2R DACs, electrostatic systems, and much more, including 2 incredible DAC amps that are constantly in our rotation here at HeadFi HQ. Join Jude and me for a look at HIFIMAN's flagship EF1000 DAC and their wallet-friendly EF500.
Now, on the table right here, as you well know, is one of my highest reference systems.
Yeah.
That's the HIFIMAN EF1000 DAC, which is what I'm talking about primarily in this segment. I happen to have it paired here with the HIFIMAN Susvara Unveiled, which is their flagship planar magnetic headphone. Together as a system, I would compare this system to anything at any price. Phenomenal system.
Yeah.
Again, one of my highest reference systems. Anyways, let's talk about what the EF1000 DAC is. It's HIFIMAN's flagship DAC amp combo, obviously desktop size. As you can see, the EF1000 DAC is a very full-size DAC amp. Now, the DAC section inside it uses their top-of-the-line version of HIFIMAN's Himalaya R2R ladder DAC architecture called Himalaya Pro.
Right.
And there are actually 4 Himalaya Pro DACs inside the EF1000 DAC. Now, R2R DAC enthusiasts watching this are probably familiar. You might remember the PCM 1704 DAC. That's another R2R DAC. The highest realization, I think, of the PCM 1704 was the PCM 1704K.
I think so.
4 Himalaya Pros, which, again, the EF1000 has inside, the EF1000 DAC has inside, outperform 4 PCM 1704Ks in every technical respect.
Right.
And that's really saying something. So, phenomenal R2R DAC inside the EF1000 DAC. Now let's talk about the amp section. The amp section is also very noteworthy with a newly developed fully discrete operational amplifier module in the input stage and a fully balanced amplifier output with a combination of field effect transistors and standard transistors. The amplifier uses a huge, also if you opened it up, there is a huge transformer inside using oxygen-free copper, quad-paired output transistors, if I didn't mention that already, high-end AC coupling capacitors, and a step potentiometer volume control. I really like that because I get perfect channel matching throughout. Phenomenal amp. It can output up to 13.7 watts into 32 ohms. It's designed, of course, to drive their flagship headphones. Of course, they're going to say that.
Yeah.
But they'll drive anything.
Yeah.
So no matter what your flagship headphone is, even if it's not made by HIFIMAN, at CanJam, if you have a chance to use an EF1000 DAC, you must. Because what I'll say is, if you're shopping for a flagship DAC, still check out the EF1000 DAC. If you're shopping for a flagship headphone amp, try the EF1000 DAC. Because it just happens to have both of those things in one single very large chassis. Connectivity I want to mention very quickly too. It uses some pretty classic audiophile component design, right?
It does.
With what we're talking about. But there's some new touches as well, kind of new tech touches. So in addition to the RCA inputs, outputs, and then the XLR, you also have the USB input, of course, for the DAC.
Optical coax.
Optical coax.
And Bluetooth.
That's what I wanted to get to, is
Yeah.
the Bluetooth. So it also has Bluetooth, which is cool.
Yeah.
And that supports AAC, SBC, aptX, aptX HD, and LDAC.
Yeah.
I found that quite unexpected, and given the type of component it is, but it's actually very cool to have.
I agree. And there's something else unexpected too on the back of this. There's a toggle for oversampling and non-oversampling modes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You can switch back and forth between those while you're listening.
Yes, so that the effect happens in real time, right?
Yeah.
The change happens in real time,
Mhm.
so you can hear the difference between oversampling, non-oversampling modes. Thank you for reminding me. So again, no matter what you're shopping for, whether it's a flagship DAC amp combo or a flagship DAC, flagship amp separately, you have to try the EF1000 DAC at CanJam with your headphones because it's phenomenal.
Now, I want to take a second to talk about an R2R DAC that I think is going to appeal to R2R DAC aficionados who are on a budget, or even potentially R2R DAC aficionados who are yet to become aficionados.
Yeah.
This is HIFIMAN's EF500, and the EF500 is the most affordable desktop DAC amp system, I believe, with HIFIMAN's Himalaya architecture inside of it.
I think
This one has the Himalaya LE, so that's their entry-level DAC. And even though it's an entry-level R2R DAC inside of this, it has some excellent specs. So the EF500 comes in under $500, so just keep that in mind. This can output up to 4.5 watts into 32 ohms, so it has a good amount of drive, and we've even used it with great success on the Susvara and Susvara Unveiled.
Yes, we have.
So when you think about it, you're driving flagship class headphones with a headphone DAC amp combo that's definitely not flagship in price.
Right. One of the amps that you should consider, if you've gone broke.
Yeah.
Buying a
headphone.
Susvara.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So inputs, you have standard USB, but that's USB-C, which I appreciate. It does have coax, and it also has Ethernet LAN, so you can network connect this, which is very, very nice. Outputs, pretty standard again. You've got dual 3-pin XLR stereo RCA on the back. On the front for headphones, you got 4-pin XLR and 6.35 millimeter outputs. It also has a really cool dial on the front, which allows you to switch between a couple different modes. Two of those are high and low gain, pretty standard, but they also come with different pairings for oversampling and non-oversampling modes. So you've got a high gain oversampled, low gain oversampled, etc. You can switch back and forth between them. So if you're running a low gain device, you can pop back and forth between those two and actually hear the difference.
Yeah, especially
live.
the difference between oversampling and not oversampling.
Yeah.
Right, which I think a lot of people are curious about.
Mhm.
You'll hear it and try them both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also pretty quiet too, as far as, a fantastic
Self-noise.
system. It's very,
Yeah.
very flexible with what you want to pair with it.
Yes, I agree.
So stop by the exhibit. Definitely check out the HIFIMAN EF500.
Now, we just found out that iFi Audio will be showing very limited edition CanJam Hong Kong versions of the iFi Audio IDSD Diablo 2 and the iFi Audio Go Bar. At CanJam Hong Kong, they'll have the IDSD Diablo 2 Auric CanJam Hong Kong Special Edition, which is a gorgeous ultra-res portable DAC and headphone amplifier with lossless Bluetooth, and the Go Bar Eclipse CanJam Hong Kong Special Edition, which is an ultra-portable DAC plus preamp plus headphone amp. I want both of them, and they'll only be available for purchase at CanJam Hong Kong, and there's a very limited supply of both, so make sure to attend the show. And don't be surprised if you find other limited special edition products by other companies available only at CanJam Hong Kong.
I have no idea how many times in our videos I've said I'm a big tube audio enthusiast.
Right.
I'm not big. I'm actually quite short. But that's big. That's the Kayan Soul 170HA.
Yeah.
Kayan says it's the first implementation of a matched pair of Tungsol KT170 tubes in a single-ended architecture Class A headphone amp.
Right.
Now, for the tube complement, output, 2 Tungsol KT170s. For the driver, 2 JJ6SN7s. For the rectifier, 2 JJ GZ34Ss.
Mm-hmm.
Analog input, stereo RCA and balanced XLR. Headphone output, 6.35 millimeter, 4.4, and 4-pin XLR. Power output, because it has speaker outputs as well.
It does.
Power output, up to 18 watts per channel into 8 ohms from the speakers.
Mhm.
The speaker outputs, up to 18 watts per channel via balanced XLR.
Beefy.
Yeah, beefy indeed for a tube headphone amp. And then if you have really sensitive speakers, like some horn speakers or something,
Yeah.
Which we didn't try, but I'm sure that would be fantastic. Again, 3 levels of impedance matching, dual operation modes, which I'll get to in a little bit, triode or ultralinear, dual tonality or timbre settings, dynamic or soft. And then there's a really cool volume control, which we'll
Yeah.
get to in a second. It uses an Alps carbon film potentiometer, but there's more to that. All right, let's talk about those dual operation modes, triode or ultralinear. If you're a tube audio enthusiast,
None of what I'm about to say is probably going to surprise you. So triode mode, KT170 screen grid connected directly to the anode. Ultralinear mode, a tap is added to the primary winding of the output transformers and connected to the KT170 screen grid, providing higher voltage and changing the operating state of the power tubes. Okay, here's how they describe it. Triode mode, tender, smooth, and elegant. Holography with sharp image, suitable for vocals, string music, and mid-range focused genre. For ultralinear mode, open, bold, with great momentum. Soundstage will open up, suitable for orchestral soundtracks and music with a wide dynamic range. Now, as far as their descriptions of the modes, again, if you're a tube audio enthusiast, none of that will surprise you. But I didn't really use those based on genre of music. And again, I just assumed I was going to be in triode mode the whole time. Now, I'm showing it on the table with the Abyss Headphones Diana DZ. I thought it was a beautiful pairing. And with switching between the two, I didn't end up in triode mode all the time at all. In fact, for that headphone, I was almost exclusively in ultralinear mode.
Yeah.
And in that mode, just things were jumping out of that Diana DZ, and I loved the way that sounded. With the Focal Utopia 2022, switching between the two, I almost always ended up, in fact, I always ended up with that headphone pretty much in triode mode.
Right.
And then I used it with other headphones, and I don't remember exactly which ones I was going for there, you know, when I switched between the two, like the HIFIMAN Susvara Unveiled, Sennheiser HD800. Everything I plugged into this amp, because of the flexibility, I got, you know, because there's impedance matching and things like that, I got I was able to get fantastic sound out of every headphone I plugged into it.
Yeah.
So there's a dual tonality setting, dynamic or soft. I don't think I need to explain what dynamic and soft means what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And play with that. The effect from that is not as pronounced as switching from ultralinear to triode mode.
Right.
No big surprise. Now that volume control, I think, is important to mention. You know, so it uses an ALPS potentiometer, a carbon film potentiometer, but it also uses a JRC Muses 72320V electronic volume chips. And so essentially it's an electronically controlled analog volume control. What they say is the 170HA's high precision volume control circuit ensures a 0 dB gain difference between the two channels. So you know that you're going to have perfect channel matching throughout the range. And that to me is very important. And I love that they've implemented it that way. So this is a fantastic tube amp. Again, it's the K&Sol 170HA. If I had the space for it and a desk that could support the weight, because almost all my desks, as you know, are kind of more lightweight build, I would absolutely need to have one of these. But if you're a tube amp enthusiast with the right setup, oh my gosh, at CanJam, this is a can't miss amplifier. At CanJam SoCal 2024, we saw a couple of them being bought on the spot, just like at show close.
Yeah.
So yeah, can't miss headphone amplifier, K&Sol 170HA. For the last several years, buying a portable headphone amplifier usually meant getting a portable DAC amp.
Right.
The dedicated amp, however, seems to be making a resurgence.
Yeah, I can think of a few.
Yeah, this is one of them.
Yeah.
This is the KN-C92. I love this thing. So at first I was, when it arrived, it really caught me off guard because, I was admittedly a little irritated. I had to go find a DAC to use with it because it didn't come with its own.
We have one or two around.
We have a lot, yeah. And honestly, it was worth it.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with this thing because it is a portable tube amplifier. I am a tube audio enthusiast, have been since I was essentially a kid. It's fully discrete, fully symmetric differential headphone amplifier. It uses Gen 5 Korg new tube 6P1 vacuum tubes. And I feel like they figured out a way to get more out of the Korg new tubes. I've heard some fantastic devices using Korg new tubes, but I feel like KN was able to find more from them that allows this to sound more like a desktop tube amp sound to me.
Yeah.
3 amp modes for the C92's discrete headphone amplification circuit. Class A, Class AB, and Hyper. You guys are probably familiar with Class A and Class AB. The Hyper mode is for ultimate performance of the C92's discrete amplification circuit at the expense of shorter battery duration and a higher temperature. I keep it in Hyper.
And that seems like a fair trade-off, too.
Yeah, I usually switch between A and Hyper just to see, and I usually end up on Hyper. But and frankly, I've been using it actually for a while today, and I still have full batteries. So we'll get to battery life in just a second. 3 timbre options: classic tube for a richer presentation, modern tube for a slightly cleaner tube sound, and solid state. So there is a solid state mode and 2 different tube modes. I usually keep it in classic mode. No big surprise if you know me, because I like that richer presentation. Negative feedback modes. There's a button here where you can switch that on or off. I think most people are going to hear a difference.
Right.
Play with it. I usually have it on. Anode modes, so you can change the anode voltage, high or low. I have mine on high. Total number of shaping options then for sound, like 12 different options, I think is what you arrive at. and it outputs up to 4.1 watts per channel into 16 ohms. So there's quite a bit of drive. I used it with the HIFIMAN Susvara Unveiled and a bunch of other headphones too, and it drives it beautifully.
Yeah.
So I found the Susvara Unveiled does really well with really good tube amps, and this really did a nice, beautiful job with it. And I've tried it with in-ears as well.
Yeah.
So try it with in-ears in low gain mode. So there's 2 different gain modes. I should have mentioned that. Replaceable batteries.
Yes.
They pop right out, no tools.
Yeah, I appreciate that because it means fewer devices ending up in landfills.
Yeah.
And all batteries die eventually. So you don't have to send it off for service. You don't have to toss it. You can just pop it out. Like you said, no tools. There's a little, like a sled inside. Pop the sled out, pop the new batteries in, pop it right back in.
And you charge it via USB-C, which is really handy. And you get up to 17 and a half hours of runtime on a full charge. Again, I've been using it, and I still have full batteries. This thing is fantastic. So even if you're not a tube audio enthusiast, because maybe you just haven't spent time with tube amps and you're curious, the KNC92 is a great place to start. Honestly, when I plug into this, my ears tell me that my eyes should be seeing, on the other end of that headphone cable, a bigger chassis with tubes sticking out of it. Something kind of more old-fashioned looking, but instead you get this modern-looking portable amp, and I love it.
Now, this little dongle is the CanJam Luna Silver Sword Edition. There's a standard edition, which I'll get to a little bit later. But the CanJam Luna Silver Sword Edition, this is a portable dongle DAC amp. It has 3.5 millimeter and 4.4 millimeter output. And inside of this, you're going to find dual CS43198 DACs. So far, pretty standard. However, it also has a switchable amp mode, switchable between Class A, B, and Class H. Now, for those that aren't familiar, Class H offers a more efficient operation overall. Inside those components are separately shielded between the digital and power sides, which I always appreciate because it's nice to have those well sequestered on their own sides. Absolutely. It outputs 285 milliwatts into 32 ohms or 54 milliwatts into 300 ohms, and it has a non-linear volume control with both high and low gain settings. Again, very nice. I love when they're non-linear because it's better depending on what you're using with it. Now, it has an aluminum alloy chassis, and that's aerospace grade aluminum, and it has a lovely finish on the outside. This is where the limited edition comes in. So the Silver Sword Edition has artwork on both the front and the back, and if you're looking to spice up your aesthetics, that's a great way to go. If you just want something a little simpler, again, the standard edition is there. It is compatible with the CanJam app. That's how you're going to be switching between modes and settings. And I want to say that it's $139 for this version or $129, again, both US for the standard. Now, I've been listening to it primarily paired with the CanJam Origin because they both arrived around the same time and I thought they make a nice pairing, and they do. Now, if you already have your own in-ears and you're looking to get a dongle DAC amp that's not going to break the bank, definitely stop by and check this out. If you don't have either, try the two together because I really think it's going to surprise a lot of people. So on the table right now, we have DUNU's Model 53 Waldstein, and it's unique in a number of very different ways, and a lot of them quite nice.
Yeah, its name is unique too.
Yeah, the name is definitely unique. Yeah. So DUNU says the Model 53 Waldstein, its design pays homage to Beethoven's Waldstein Piano Sonata No. 21, aiming to replicate its sense of awakening and clarity, so that's why it inherited that name. Now, inside of this is a quad-channel, fully balanced, battery-powered headphone amplifier. We'll talk about that battery in a second here. It's designed in collaboration with DUNU Audio, and it is the official headphone for DUNU's full-size headphone, their planar magnetic Arashi. Now, it's their first full-size desktop scale headphone amplifier designed for their first full-size headphone. I think that's a wonderful combination. It's fantastic.
A headphone we both love, by the way.
Oh, we love these two, and they sound phenomenal together.
Yeah, they do indeed.
So that headphone amplifier has 2 gain settings, and in high gain, it'll deliver 1200 milliwatts at 64 ohms when you're running balanced on battery, and it can do up to 300 milliwatts at 600 ohms. So a good amount of oomph into something that's a little more demanding. However, it also has a linear power supply option, and if you have that linear power supply, which we don't currently, if you have it, it can do up to 1,850 milliwatts into 64 ohms and up to 500 milliwatts into 600 ohms. So again, running balanced, it's got a lot of oomph when you got that power supply in there.
Yeah, I would like to get that power supply in at some point because I saw another spec here, 950 milliwatts into 300 ohms.
Yeah.
We have a lot of 300 ohm headphones here that a few in particular that I'd really like to try that with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So its chassis is CNC machined from a single block of aluminum. That's 6063 aluminum alloy. And they have a nice sandblasted surface finish to it. So it has a very elegant, subtle classy look, and I think it's beautiful.
The whole fit and finish is gorgeous. The switches feel great.
Yes, they
the
do.
The volume knob feels heavy. I love that.
I love that resistance that it has. Now, we were talking about the batteries. I want to mention that the batteries inside of this, there are 6 Sanyo NCR 18650 cells, which deliver about 24 hours of continuous playback, according to DUNU's measurements, because that's about 88 watt-hours of total capacity. And they say that this system ensures stable and pure sound output in various environments, such as offices, dorm rooms, living rooms, and bedrooms, and that's why the battery is in there, because it's going to be separating the amplifier circuit from whatever power you're feeding it.
Like from the main circuit.
Exactly.
Right.
So they have that distinction. And then if you have the linear power supply, it takes the battery out of the circuit entirely, and it's running straight from that linear power supply. Now, it also has some phenomenal components in here. I mean, incredible things. So, for example, it's got Panasonic signal relays, Nichicon KZ water tank capacitors, additional capacitors from KZ and Elna, Neotech 7-in OCC silver internal wiring.
There's a lot of stuff on that list.
There's so much stuff on that list.
The stuff from Vishay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They've paid so much attention to what goes into this to get an incredible sound out of it. I mean, this pairing together, if anybody has the opportunity to try these two together at CanJam, definitely do. And if you don't, absolutely listen to the headphone amplifier with your favorite headphones, because it's incredible. From IEMs to full-size headphones, it can drive pretty much anything.
Yeah, they actually even mentioned specifically in our notes here, high signal-to-noise ratio, exceptional compatibility with IEMs.
Yeah.
In our community, that's very important. Signal-to-noise ratio up to 132 dB A-weighted, so extremely quiet in terms of self-noise. So yeah, though it's made for the Arashi, or with that in mind, like you said, it should drive pretty much anything.
Oh, yeah.
This is the mass-kobo amplifier that I wanted second most.
I get you.
Yeah,
okay.
you know which
okay.
one. You know which one's number one. So the mass-kobo Model 465, which is their flagship desktop amp, is the one I'd want most. But it has this really big glitch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know what the glitch is. I can't afford it. So yeah, you know exactly where I was going with it. I can't afford that because it's a phenomenal amp. So confident are they in how great it sounds that they show it with a very modest headphone at CanJam. You can plug whatever headphone you bring to their exhibit, but if they exhibit it at CanJam, they will show it with typically a Sony MDR CD900 ST.
Oh, yeah, that's affordable.
Yeah, $140.
Yeah.
$140. And it sounds magical, and everybody that hears it always asks the same question. Which Sonys are these? Okay, plug them into whatever you're probably using, and it's probably not going to sound quite that magical.
Yeah.
Unless you have a Model 465 or actually a Model 475 as well. So I can afford this. I bought this. And what I love about the Model 475 is it brings a lot of that magic of the 465 to something obviously much more affordable and also portable.
Yeah.
And so even with the MDR CD900 STs, which we have here, it sounds like it's powered from a mass-kobo amp.
Right.
And then, of course, with IEMs. Now, of course, the desktop one's going to have a lot more more difficult to drive headphones. This one may not have. But this is, again, a lot more affordable. And it still provides a lot of that mass-kobo magic. Let's talk about what it is. It's obviously portable. It's kind of an old-school portable design in terms of form factor. It's, not the smallest portable amp.
No.
It runs on 4 AA batteries. I use rechargeable batteries with it, but you can't charge them in the unit because there's no charger circuit. You have to charge those outside the unit. Or you can use alkalines if you want. I use rechargeables because the flatter discharge curve. Gain switch is also inside the battery compartment. You have to use a tool to flip it up and down. So again, a little bit fidgety. You can also power it via USB-C. So when I'm using it in a desktop, I use USB-C on the front to power it. And again, it's just magical. Let's talk a little bit about specs. Maximum output, 165 milliwatts balanced, 45 milliwatts unbalanced. It has a maximum output level, peak to peak, 7 volts balanced, 3.5 volts unbalanced. That's into 32 ohms, I believe.
Yeah.
So it has drive.
Yeah.
And it's just not 465 level drive, but if you can't afford the 465 and you want mass-kobo magic, oh my gosh, don't miss the Model 475. I'm thrilled to have this amp here.
Now, of course, there will be many more sources at CanJam Hong Kong that we didn't get to mention here, sources that you won't want to miss. Audima will be joining us at CanJam Hong Kong, and they'll have their Maestro HPA-1 for you to try. FiiO will be showing a new turntable, the TT13, introducing yet another new product category for FiiO. Heritage Audio will be showing their family of products designed for both music creators and listeners. Their i73 Pro family has certainly caught my eye. HiBi will have their family of digital audio players, including the R6 Pro Max, and their dongle DACs like the HiBi FC4. You'll be able to find iFi Audio's family of products, including the latest generation in their HipDAC family, the HipDAC 3. Lotu will have their family of portables and desktop sources like the Lotu Pod GT2 and the Mjolnir, and Topping will have their family of desktop amps and DACs, including the Topping D70 Pro Saber DAC and Topping A70 Pro amplifier stack. Be sure not to miss these sources and so many more at CanJam Hong Kong 2025.
At CanJam SoCal 2024, there were a lot of product launches. And among the few standouts was unquestionably this. This is the Campfire Audio Clara.
Yes.
This IEM was developed, of course, by Campfire Audio, but with musician Alessandro Cortini. And it coincided with the launch of an album of his called Nati Infiniti. Wonderful album, by the way. But you might know him more from his work with Nine Inch Nails. He's a core member of Nine Inch Nails, a multi-instrumentalist with Nine Inch Nails. And I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. I was actually at their first album's tour, the Detroit stop, opened up by Meat Beat Manifesto. And that was years before Alessandro joined the band. Anyway, big Nine Inch Nails fan. So they developed this, and Alessandro was so excited about having people hear this for the first time because he was very happy with the results. So I wanted to hear it for sure at the show. Now, Ken Ball from Campfire Audio had this to say about it. He said, "This model is, in my opinion, the best hybrid we have ever made. But I'll let Alessandro talk about the sound and voicing when that time comes since he guided me on its development. We are doing an initial small run of the clear blue 3D printed hand lacquered shell with stainless steel matte black PVD lid, MMCX ring, and tip parts." That's the one you're holding.
Yep.
The clear blue shell is ongoing, while we will also offer a limited run of 50 sets of it and a 3D printed titanium alloy solid monolithic shell, which is what I'm holding.
Right.
I love titanium everything, and so I had to get one of the pairs of the 50.
Yep.
And so I ordered these right when I found out about them. Well, after I heard them.
Yeah.
And this pair's mine. So let's talk about what it is. Ken said it's a hybrid. It uses a 10 millimeter biocellulose dual neomagnet dynamic driver, Knowles dual diaphragm mid BA, and Knowles dual high frequency tweeter. It uses the TAEC resonator on the high driver that's tuned acoustic expansion chamber and tuned mid acoustic front acoustic bore.
Right.
Now, in terms of how it sounds, I would say first of all, the first thing I noticed about it was the imaging.
Yeah.
It images quite wide, and it's a lovely, coherent, wide image. That was literally the first thing I noticed about it when I started one of my test tracks. And, of course, it doesn't image out of head. You need DSP pretty much to get it out of your head. But as IEMs go, it's a nice, wide, coherent image. I love the way everything's staged. In terms of tonal balance, I would call it on the rich side of my neutral range for sure.
Yeah.
Love the bass emphasis, very tastefully applied, very impactful. The mids are bell clear.
They are.
And I love that about them as well. And the highs are detailed, but never bright for me. So yeah, I love these. Now for you, the bass is probably a little on the heavier side of your range.
It is.
You tend to like things that are bass tuned, perceived flat sound. And these have some emphasis, which I prefer. That's more. So these were squarely in my tonal wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So with that imaging, just a beautiful sounding pair. And the moment I heard them, I ordered the titanium pair, which I'm so happy to have. So at any CanJam you go to where they have a Clara, listen to it because I think it is the best sounding IEM that Campfire Audio has yet made. So this is the Campfire Audio Astrolith.
Yeah.
This is actually a pretty unique IEM. As driver configuration goes.
Definitely.
It's a dual planar magnetic IEM. I'll talk more about that in a second. So I remember talking to Ken Ball from Campfire Audio a while before they released the Astrolith.
Yeah.
He was so excited about this one. I think if you were to ask him, he'd probably say this is probably among the very best IEMs they've made so far.
Right.
I can see why he's so excited about it. So let's talk about it. Again, it's a dual planar magnetic IEM, which is quite unusual. It uses a 14 millimeter driver plus something called AAOI for the lows through mids. AAOI stands for Additive Acoustic Optical Inclusion Housing. These chambers are carefully engineered to create precisely controlled acoustic volumes and ensure the targeted vision for Astrolith's sonic performance.
Right.
It also uses a 6 millimeter driver plus PPR for the highs. PPR stands for Particle Phase Resonator. Campfire's PPR smooths and tempers the 6 millimeter driver while still allowing it to shine and do what it does best, create lightning fast transients, resolution, and top-end detail. and that it definitely has.
It does that.
So it's as far as the chassis goes, it's a 3D printed acrylic body with a mirror finished stainless steel faceplate. Actually, it's a lovely looking piece.
It definitely is.
All right, so now let's talk about the sound. So when they released the Astrolith, Campfire Audio also released a measurement. Now the thing is, I don't know what measurement fixture they used for that measurement, but that measurement, at least to me, doesn't look like what I'm hearing.
Right.
For whatever that's worth, and I haven't measured it yet, so I don't know what my measurement will look like and if it'll look like what I'm hearing. But it doesn't sound to me like their measurement looks. The tonal balance of the Astrolith to me it's on the rich side for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would you agree with that?
I do.
Smooth sounding overall, but it has this like a sparkle to it, a sparkly detail to it. That, I mean, I'm guessing that's a 6mm driver.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love that combination.
Yeah.
Because it's like a non-fatiguing overall signature, and it's super easy to listen to, but that sparkly detail is a lovely thing with it.
Yeah, there's no edge to it. It doesn't really pierce or anything like that,
Right.
but it is sparkly.
I agree. So that I dig. So that said, for this type of tonal balance, there's a surprising amount of detail coming through, but yet it's, again, easy to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I can understand why Ken Ball was so excited about the Astrolith. I do love that they're doing something different with this dual planar magnetic design.
Yeah.
And the Astrolith is a can't miss IEM.
Now, I almost feel like this one doesn't really need any introduction. It's the HIFIMAN Spawner Wireless. We've talked about it in a number of CanJam preview videos in the past, and we're going to continue to talk about it because it is fantastic.
It is.
I do want to talk real quick about what's inside of this before we get to any sound.
Sure.
So HIFIMAN did a very interesting approach with this in-ear. They treated it like a desktop system. So they focused on the DAC, they focused on the amplification, they focused on the drivers and the technology that are creating the sound, and it turned out wonderful.
Yes.
So it does have some HIFIMAN technology we've come to, expect from their products, like the HIFIMAN topology diaphragm, and then some stuff we didn't expect, like their HIFIMAN Himalaya in a true wireless.
Yes.
That's an R-to-R DAC.
Right.
And it's the full Himalaya. It's not even the Himalaya LE. It's the full-fledged Himalaya. So when you combine the way they approached every single part of this in-ear, the sound was phenomenal. And they also put some really cool tech inside of here too. So for example, it has Bluetooth 5.2 with LDAC, which is nice. It does have active noise cancellation. It's got built-in microphones for outgoing voice. It does have about 7 hours of battery life and 28 with the rechargeable case. And then if you're using it for any kind of exercise, it does have IPX5. Admittedly though, I don't use this for exercise. I use it purely for music listening.
Yeah, same here. So here's my just breakdown of this. The Spawner Wireless is still, by a margin actually, the most resolving true wireless in-ear I've heard.
Yeah.
By a margin.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to also mention there's no accompanying app.
That's true.
So you can't EQ it.
Right.
Now you might think that's limiting, but I actually find that, yes, it's a bit limiting, but it's also very freeing.
I agree.
Now to make that work, because you don't have to worry about, tuning it. But
exactly.
To make that work, they had to nail the tuning,
yes.
which they've done.
Mm-hmm.
So I would describe the tonal balance as within my range of neutral, but the treble is about middle high for me.
Yeah, see, I like that.
Yeah, you like it.
Mm-hmm.
I do too, actually. I think this is one of those ones that we agree on.
We do.
It's like middle high in my preference range of treble range, but in a way that's important to its sound.
Yes.
Let me explain. So bass extension is good.
Yep.
Very good, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that its tuning is on the more audiophile side, not on the consumer true wireless side. So there you go. So it's more head-fi friendly that way. Mids are bell clear, but the treble that I was describing is also, I think, part of its resolution. There's a lot of resolving ability in the treble with the Spawner Wireless, and I think that's where a lot of its magic lies.
Mm-hmm.
So altogether, just a beautiful tuning. And yeah, this, I would say, is, for me, one of only a couple of true wireless models that I use for dedicated music listening.
Right.
And that's a very big deal. So I do think that R-to-R DAC that you mentioned, I mean, who would have ever thought you'd have an R-to-R DAC with a true wireless in-ear?
I didn't.
Yeah. And if you're an R-to-R DAC enthusiast and you haven't heard it yet, so that should pique your curiosity. But it's, I think, important to the resolving ability as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic true wireless in-ear for audiophiles.
ECT is one of our CanJam Hong Kong sponsors this year, and we would like to extend a special thank you to ECT for helping make CanJam Hong Kong possible. Now, as I'm sure you already know, ECT's IEM lineup is massive, and they're bringing many popular IEMs to CanJam Hong Kong. IEMs from DITA Audio, Final, Flip Ears, and many others. Let's take a look at a few models from Canpur and Jomo Audio that are sure to be on your IEM audition list.
So in 2023, these completely took me by surprise.
Right.
So this is the Canpur CP622B. It was CanJam London 2023. I had never heard of Canpur before that show. Had you?
No, I had not.
So for me, they were brand new,
Mm-hmm.
the company and any of their products. Now, I think any IEM enthusiast, the kind that pays attention to every single IEM release from anywhere in the world,
Mm-hmm.
those guys probably knew about this already.
Yeah.
I did not. So I sit down at their exhibit at CanJam London 2023, and I say, what should I listen to? And they say, well, try our flagship, the CP622B.
Sure.
Put them in my ears. I'm completely blown away. I remember I was like, the mid-range on these is magical. May I ask, what is it about these? Why are they your flagship? Why does it sound like this? And they told me what it is, and here's what it is. It's a 10-driver tribrid,
Mm-hmm.
6 Sonian balanced armature drivers, 2 Sonian electrostatic drivers, 2 Sonian bone conduction drivers. And then they said the bone conduction drivers are mid-range bone conduction drivers.
Yeah.
They're custom Sonian drivers, by the way. So that was the first time I'd ever heard an IEM with mid-range bone conduction drivers. And so I asked them, do you think that's what it is then? They go, yeah, that probably is part of it for sure. And yeah, I love them. I love the imaging. Image is wide but coherent. You love these too.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. As far as the tonal balance goes, they just do everything right. Now, from a bass standpoint, so for me, let's say my bass standard might be, for example, the Subtonic Storm.
Sure.
Super impactful, some emphasized bass, but, still very audiophile, very physical to me. These don't have quite that. I would call these middle of my preference range,
Mm-hmm.
but not quite middle-low. So you get what I'm saying? So between middle, low. So almost right there where I would exactly want it.
Yeah.
The mid-range, as I already mentioned, magical. And just the overall balance is beautiful. So, and that imaging. So yeah, I love these. And I remember there's a very popular reviewer in our field, Cameron, who goes by Golden Sound.
Yeah.
And I see Cameron, I'm like, Cameron, check these out. Give these a listen. He comes, sits down, gives them a listen. I still remember wide-eyed looks at me like kind of like, whoa, what are these? And, being as popular as he is, people see him listening to them, and they come around and start listening to them. And yeah, anyway, so the CP622B by now has become a flagship, a super respected flagship.
Yeah.
Even at the highest end, and deservedly so. And I should mention, by the way, they come with a custom Elitech Socrates cable.
Mm-hmm.
So you also get essentially an aftermarket Elitech cable with it, which is very cool. Fantastic IEM. Don't miss it. Now, CanJam London 2023, the Canpur CP622B blew me away.
Yeah.
B stands for blew me away. Now, at CanJam Singapore 2024, I first heard these. They weren't out yet. This is the Canpur CP74E. I listened to them. I was super thrilled by them. In fact, I took them out of my ear to look at them to make sure I wasn't listening to the CP622B.
Yeah.
Because they don't, at the time, again, I hadn't heard the CP622B in a while. So, but it reminded me of them. So now when I have them side by side, which we have them both here, I can say it still reminds me of the CP622B.
Right.
Which is surprising given they have such different driver complements.
Yes.
So the CP74E is an 11-driver hybrid versus a 10-driver tribrid with the CP622B. It's the 74E has 11 drivers, 7 balanced armatures, 4 EST drivers.
Right.
And so no bone conduction drivers. And maybe that's where the differences in the mid-range come in.
I'm sure.
Because tonal balance-wise, they remind me a lot of each other, but there are some differences in the mid-range, certainly in imaging as well.
Yeah.
There's something about the imaging that might be the bone conduction drivers with the CP622B that's just different. And these are not, they don't have that, which some might prefer, actually.
Yeah.
And they're priced below the CP622B, so I'm going to be curious to see how that kind of shakes out. I think some are going to prefer the CP74E. For me, the 622B, the CP622B, is probably a little more special because of that mid-range and the imaging. But I think some will prefer this. The one thing I'll say is the shell on the CP74E fits me better.
Yeah.
And I think, frankly, it's going to fit some people better than the CP622B, and I think that'll be something that people find. So make sure to try them both on. But whatever you do, don't miss the CP74E at CanJam.
So this is the Jomo Audio Serenity, and it was a bit of a surprise to us because, first of all, we didn't know it was coming. So when it arrived, we thought, oh, something new from Jomo Audio, that's very exciting. And then we got to hear it and thought, oh, hello. But I'll touch about that in a little bit here.
Yeah,
I first want to talk about what's inside. So this is an 8-driver tribrid IEM, and it has two 10mm DLC or diamond-like carbon diaphragm dynamic drivers for the lows and mids. It has two balanced armatures for the mid-highs, two balanced armatures for the highs, and then two 6mm planar super tweeters for the ultra-highs. All of that is housed within a stabilized Arctic wood chassis that's CNC machined. And one of the things I love about when you work with wood, everything's unique. It's a beautiful finish, and they're all going to be individual.
Yes.
Love that. It also has on the faceplate here something that Jomo Audio is calling a Flowmax open back faceplate grill inlay. And that's a gold-plated brass plate. It's very beautiful. And then Jomo Audio says, the Flowmax open back faceplate grill, seamlessly inlaid into the design, not only enhances the aesthetic appeal, but also serves as an acoustic venting system, ensuring optimal airflow for a refined listening experience. And it's definitely refined. We'll get to, again, that in a second. But I do also want to mention real quick, starting with some of their more recent options, like the Nautilus, for example. We saw the Nautilus at CanJam SoCal 2024. Beautiful IEM. I thought they had really stepped up their design game.
I agree.
They're doing that again with the Serenity. It's a beautiful piece, and I'm very excited to see what they're doing with the aesthetic changes.
Yeah, the wood with the faceplate on that is just gorgeous.
Yeah. They've also paired it very nicely. So this has an Adrenaline Mark II 4-wire cable. That's a 26-gauge cable, OCC silver-plated copper, and it's terminated in 4.4mm with 2-pin connectivity. Now, getting to the sound impressions, I was very, very surprised with this. So when I started listening to it, the very first thing I thought, this is very nice from the highs all the way through the mids. Very nicely done. It does have an emphasized low end. However, that low end is still clean and controlled. Very well maintained. I'm going to say it. This is probably one of the best Jomo audio pieces I've heard in quite some time. And I'm going to go so far as to say you've probably measured this, I'm guessing, on MDACs.
On MDACs, yeah.
It's probably scored quite well, is my guess.
It
just
did.
my estimation.
It did. You haven't seen the score yet.
Yeah.
So my listening notes, you went from the highs to the lows. I'm going to go from the lows to the highs.
I started with what's important.
Yeah, you like treble. Mildly emphasized bass, and I agree it's clean and controlled.
Yeah.
Some richness in the mids, combined with good mid-range resolution, which I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Articulate but smoother treble, no harshness.
Yeah.
A bit richer than pure neutral.
It is.
So I agree with you, and I've enjoyed these a lot. So I did measure it on MDACs, which is Head Acoustics multidimensional audio quality score metric, and we've done videos on it, so do check that out on our channel.
Yeah.
The mean opinion score timbre, which includes frequency response, spectral flux, and other things, 4.9 out of 5.
Not surprised.
Mean opinion score immersiveness, 4.5 out of 5.
Nice.
Its overall mean opinion score, MDAC score, was 4.8 out of 5.
Yeah.
So it scored very, very well, and I'm not surprised. You actually asked me to run it through MDACs thinking it would do well, and you were right, it did. So this is the 64 audio Velour.
Mm-hmm.
The Velour has been, since its release, among my favorite IEMs at any price.
Yeah.
Love the Velour. So when they first came out, it was one of the previous CanJam preview videos. I told a quick story, and I'm going to tell it again. So I worked at a hi-fi store when I was in college.
Yeah, selling phonographs.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, actually, we did. We did, you smart aleck. So we did sell phonographs because we sold Lin turntables, among other things. And that's where I was going, was Lin, because we also sold Lin's loudspeakers. Mm-hmm. And their flagship loudspeaker at the time was the Lin Isobaric. And to this day, some of my best hi-fi memories in all of my life, in terms of the sound, came from that room.
Yeah.
Now, the Lin Isobaric DMS, I think, was the model we specifically had, if I'm not mistaken. And as the name might suggest, it had two isobarically loaded oval KEF B139 drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe I remember that still. And the impact from those bass drivers was insane. I think we had usable bass well below 20 hertz.
Nice.
So it was very physical, very tactile, very textured. And it integrated beautifully with the rest of the drivers. All right. So I think we triumphed it with name amplifiers too.
Oh, awesome.
Anyways, don't get me started. So anyways, so this, when I heard them for the first time, the 64 Audio Velour, I remember hearing it, and one of the things that that immediately stood out to me was the bass.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, boy, they remind me a little bit of the Lin Isobarics. They don't sound exactly like the Lin Isobarics or anything like that, but there's something about that bass that helps define sort of its sound.
Yeah.
Anyway, sometimes the first time I see a spec
Mm-hmm.
for any product that we're talking about in our preview videos when I look at your show notes.
Yeah.
Because Brian puts together our show notes. And I see that these have two 9mm dynamic drivers and a cone-to-magnet isobaric design.
Yep.
And when I saw that, you remember, I was like thrilled to find that out because I was like, hey, what was I saying? Anyway, so it is a 10-driver hybrid IEM. It's not just about the bass drivers, although those are really key to making these what they are.
Mm-hmm.
There are 7 balanced armature drivers as well, 6 mid, 1 high mid, and then 1 TIA balanced armature driver for highs. The TIA is the
tubeless in-ear audio.
Yeah. So it's effectively their it's 64 Audio's proprietary kind of a open enclosure balanced armature. It's a 4-way passive crossover design. Now, like other 64 Audio IEMs, it has their Apex modules. It supports the Apex modules. It uses them. Came with 4 of them, I think.
I believe it did, yeah.
The M15 is what came installed on the pair we have here. I've tried the other Apex modules. I will say this. If you want to hear the 64 Audio velour with the bass where I think it's pretty much perfect, listen to the M15 module. Try the other modules to tune to your taste, but the M15 is like perfect for me.
Yeah.
And again, like the Lin Isobarics, amazingly impactful, very textured, physical, love it. And just like the Isobarics, again, doesn't sound exactly like them as I recall them, but integrates beautifully with the rest of it. All those other drivers I talked about. And I actually found I've done a lot of tip rolling. I ended up with the final type E tips.
Yeah.
And that is where I think the treble, mids, and that beautiful bass all just kind of come together. And it images beautifully, as a lot of 64 Audio TIA models do.
Yeah.
Love the velour. This is a can't miss. I don't care at CanJam. I don't care what price point you're shopping in. Do not miss the 64 Audio velour. Now, as CanJams go, CanJam SoCal 2024 was a big CanJam.
Right.
And so there were several key product launches at that show. But one of the most noteworthy product launches was, in my opinion, this IEM here, which is the Forte Ears Macbeth.
Yeah.
And the reason it was so noteworthy, it's a brand new IEM and a flagship class IEM, no less, from a brand new company. And it was met with immense enthusiasm by even the most serious IEM enthusiasts, the IEM cognoscenti, if you will. I'm looking at your face. Okay, I don't know if that's a word you'd use. Snobs. The IEM snobs. They loved the Macbeth, and I'm not surprised. And it's a company that, though new, it was started by a guy with a lot of experience in our industry, Ricardo Ye.
Yeah.
I've known him for a long time. He's been in the industry over 10 years. He worked with HIFIMAN, with Elitech. Anyway, so he has a lot of experience, and he brought it to bear with these. Let's talk about what they are. It's an 11-driver tribrid, 5 balanced armature drivers, 4 electrostatics, 2 bone conduction drivers that are mid-range bone conduction drivers, and a Diablo bass driver, which is an exclusive Sonian customized bass driver. 5-way crossover, 3D printed resin shell, rhodium-plated copper faceplate. Absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
By the way, we did a video. It's on our channel. It's also on Headphone from Warren Peachy, where he reviews the Macbeth, talks about the background of the company. And I want to mention that not just because you should check out the video if you haven't already, but because on that video we showed the prototype faceplate.
Yeah.
It wasn't enameled yet.
Right.
Now it's enameled, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I also want to mention the cable. Comes with a 26-gauge, custom 26-gauge 4-wire cable from Elitech. So you're effectively getting a beautiful aftermarket grade cable from Elitech.
Right.
With the Macbeth. There's also an optional Ambition upgrade cable.
Right.
Aptly named because all I can do is, hope to hear it one day. It's $3,999, which if I didn't mention, that's the same price as this IEM, $3,999 USD. It's a 23-gauge, 8-wire design, gold-silver alloy, gold-plated silver, gold-plated copper. This is not the Ambition cable.
Right.
Bit too rich for my blood, maybe. Did I mention the Baroque ear tips, the Elitech Baroque ear tips? So it comes with Elitech Baroque ear tips, which are probably my favorite IEM ear tips of all time.
One of mine, too.
Yeah, they seem to solve every fit issue every time I use them. Leather carrying case, and again, $3,999 USD. Let's talk about how they sound.
Yes.
Are they within my range of neutrality? Yes, they are. What I love about these is they have so many characteristics of some of my favorite IEMs I've ever heard. So, for example, the bass sometimes reminds me of something like the Subtonic Storm.
Yep.
The mid-range, I was actually the first thing I noticed with it probably was the mid-range reminded me of the Canpur CP622B. Probably not coincidental that they both use mid-range bone conduction drivers.
Yeah.
And the treble, it's like this IEM is psychic. It's at the let me explain. The treble's like at the upper range of my neutral range.
I can see that.
Definitely in the upper range of my neutral range, but only when I want it to be somehow. Yeah, I know. I can't explain it either. But there's something about its tuning where the treble, depending on what I'm listening to, comes in like almost exactly when I want it to.
Okay.
And I love the tonal balance of these.
Yeah.
And it images big, beautiful. Love this IEM. So at CanJam, you're looking for a flagship class IEM. Forte Ears Macbeth is an absolute can't miss.
Okay, now what I'm about to talk about might start a little bit of a stampede, but let me explain. This is the Elitech Eclipse. Now, the Eclipse is a new cable from Elitech. And when I think of ELATEC, I go straight to thinking about their premium flagship aftermarket cables. I'm sure a lot of people do as well.
Yes.
The build quality is phenomenal. They're wonderful pairings with a lot of different in-ears. This, as far as pricing though, is at the very opposite end of the spectrum of what I typically think of, because I think premium as in premium price.
Yeah, some of them get very expensive.
They can.
Yeah.
This is a premium build, but it is not premium priced. It comes as part of ELATEC's experience package. I'll talk about that in a second. But the Eclipse is a wonderful, entry-level cable. It's going to be limited too. I'll talk about that in a moment too. Inside of this is a 23 gauge 2-wire cabling, and it has OFC and OCC copper blending inside. It also features ELATEC's coaxial geometry and ELATEC's hardware. For example, it has ELATEC's 4.4 millimeter termination and their Versa system. So for the in-ear side, it has 2-pin and MMCX connectivity. Now, I mentioned the package. For $149 US, you get the ELATEC Eclipse and a pair of Baroque ear tips from ELATEC as well. We love the Baroque ear tips. Around here, they've actually become one of our favorite styles of ear tips.
Yeah, they might be my very favorites, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you think they're not inexpensive ear tips, but you're getting a pair of ear tips and a cable for $149 US, that's crazy value. However, they're only making about 300 sets of these worldwide, globally. So if you're watching this now and they still have some in stock and you haven't already checked it out, you absolutely have to, because I don't think these are going to last very long.
Now, you mentioned the ELATEC Baroque ear tips.
Mm-hmm.
I can safely say at this point, they are my favorite ear tips for IEMs now. And I want to tell a quick story before I explain why. So I go to Tokyo somewhat regularly, and when I go, it's become a custom, as you well know, that I buy a lot of ear tips.
Right.
And there was one trip I went on where I bought so many ear tips that they filled 2 small shopping carts, like literally filled them, because it was all different manufacturers, all different types. And the clerk literally asked me, he said, are those both for you? I said, yes. And he said, are you sure you want all of them? And I said, yeah, no, I'm sure I want all of them. But here's the thing. On my most recent trip to Tokyo, just happened, I bought no ear tips. I think that's the first time in I don't know how many years that I went to Tokyo, came back with no new ear tips. Why? Because of the Baroques. They solve my problem, my fit problems most of the time. It's not just problems. They're just the tips I use most of the time. They're made of a Japanese medical grade silicone. They're super duper supple.
Yes.
They have beautiful structure. The design is genius because they have structure, even though they're like, the silicone almost feels paper thin.
Right.
And yet, as paper thin and supple as it is, I've never torn a pair. So I've yet to tear a pair. And I can't say that about every ear tip. As you know, there are some ear tips that we just, when we frequently change them, tear apart the insides.
Yeah.
But these, I have yet to destroy a pair. So the ELATEC Baroques to me, and they sound great with just about every IEM I try them with. And they're, oh, by the way, they're not the kind that you just push, I don't want to get this stuck in here. Anyways, that you push that super deep. They're, you just kind of get them into your ear and you'll feel when you get the seal, and that's where you'll usually settle, at least in my ears. So the ELATEC Baroques at CanJam, you want to audition your IEMs with them. I don't care which IEMs you're using, at least try them. And I have a feeling you will probably, like me, end up settling on Baroques and buying way fewer ear tips than you may be doing now. So something else ELATEC is becoming known for, their high-end audio accessories.
Right.
Executed at such a high level, stuff just for head fires. Now, Brian and I are both leather goods enthusiasts, and we nerd out about leather goods too. So we even talk about the tanneries, the specific tanneries that make specific leathers of stuff that we have.
Yeah.
And I have those same conversations, as do you, with ELATEC.
Yeah.
They're into that stuff too. In fact, they've contacted me before and said, we're going to be making something that you're going to love out of a Merriam horse butt, right? And that's, Merriam's an Italian tannery. Actually, that's that IEM case there. I believe that is a Merriam horse butt.
Yep.
And you can't get it anymore, unfortunately. It was a very limited release. And I'll explain why I'm telling you about it anyway. You'll get it in a second. So the other case that we have here is, it's a larger case. It's called the Luxe Companion case, also sold out.
Right.
It's made of Zonta museum calf leather. Zonta is another Italian tannery. And museum calf leather is like a hand-burnished calf skin.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. It has a modular interior. It came with 4 IEM pouches and 5 leather keeper straps. All right. So why am I telling you about it if you can't get them? Because they're regularly releasing these limited edition runs of accessories.
Yeah.
executed again at such a high level. We've unfortunately missed some that we wanted.
Yeah, I missed a moss green Lux case some time back, and I still kick myself for that.
Yeah, and you didn't even wait that long. They just
No.
went away so quickly.
Yeah.
I ordered the kudu. I didn't miss those. I should have them here. The kudu, which is an antelope.
Yeah, the cavalry cases.
Yeah, that's what they're called. Yeah, the cavalry cases. IEM cases. I got 2 of them, and so I ordered those the moment they came out. So at CanJam, stop by Elitech's exhibit,
Right.
and be as surprised as I am sometimes when they have something I hadn't seen before that's probably a limited edition. Their accessories are just executed at such a high level. Absolutely beautiful. This is the DUNU DK3001BD.
Yep.
Now, we both love the way these look.
Yeah.
They're kind of kitschy looking. Now, I'm a lot older than you, so when I see these, I'm reminded of like maybe a prop from 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah, great movie.
Yeah, but you're a lot younger. The intended reference wasn't lost on you.
No, because these are the DK3001BD, and shortly after they arrived, we learned that BD stands for brain dance. So if there are any cyberpunk players out there, hey, because that's a core mechanic to the cyberpunk gameplay, and they have a very cyberpunk style to them. I love the look.
Nerd.
Yeah.
But anyways, so let's talk about what they are. Inside, they are a 9-driver tribrid flagship Glacier low-frequency dynamic driver. I'm not sure what that means.
That's DUNU's driver, yeah.
Okay. 4 balanced armatures with custom mid-high balanced armatures, and 4 planar magnetic drivers.
Yeah.
So very interesting driver complement.
Very.
The shell is aerospace-grade aluminum alloy housing with zirconium ceramic-coated shell.
I love the finish.
And
Yep.
again, we both love the way it looks. The cable comes with Q-Lock mini interchangeable plugs, 4.4 millimeter and 3.5 millimeter.
Yeah.
We both really love that interchangeable plug system
Yes.
that DUNU developed. Now, here are my listening notes. Treble sounds forward to me at the upper end of my personal preference range for treble, not to be mistaken for harsh.
But see, that's my favorite part of the signature.
I knew it would be.
Yep.
I knew, but he likes treble.
Yeah.
I love treble too, and that as long as it doesn't cross my upper range, we're good. And with these, we're good. So I said I really enjoy the treble detail with the DK3001BD. It adds nice texture to the signature, so you'd agree. Bass is strong, but taut. Mid-range being spared any of the bass's boost.
Yeah, they controlled it very well.
Yeah, so there's some bass elevation for sure, but the mids seem untouched by it to my ears. Imaging, nice separation.
Yeah.
That's all I put in there. I could have done better than that. It images very beautifully, actually, especially for the price. The DK3001BD sounds as fun as it looks. There we go back to the looks again.
Yeah.
Those kitschy looks. I actually love the way they look.
I do too.
And I really enjoy the way they sound. I mean, honestly, we both guessed that they'd be priced quite a bit higher than they actually are.
Yes, exactly. This is DUNU's Studio SA6 EST, and I'm so happy they sent this over for us to try because I've kind of fallen in love with it.
Yes, you have.
So the SA6 EST, inside, it's an 8-driver hybrid, and that's comprised of 6 balanced armatures with 2 Sonian custom low-frequency BAs, 2 Nowell's custom mid-high frequency BAs, and 2 Nowell's custom high-frequency BAs, paired with 2 of Sonian's custom ultra-high frequency ESTs. Now, it's on the outside, it's finished in a custom Nebula faceplate, which I think is absolutely beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And then the cable that it comes with is quite nice because it's terminated with DUNU's Q-Lock Plus interchangeable plugs. They call it the Hulk Pro Mini cable. And it comes with a 4.4 millimeter termination and 3.5 millimeter termination. So you're pretty much set to go straight out of the box, whether you want to run balanced or single-ended.
I love the way they executed the interchangeable plug concept.
I really do too. And the studio in the name kind of gives you a hint where they might have been going with the sound signature because to me, this is well within my wheelhouse. I love this signature. So starting at the low end, I find it a little bit elevated. Not much, but enough for me to say that's a little elevated.
Still within your range, though.
Still within my range.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Mid sound fantastic, and there's some wonderful stuff going on in the high end. There's a really nice treble resolution and detail that comes through, and I can sit and listen to these for hours. I absolutely love them.
I know you do. The funny thing is, when I hear them, so our bass preferences are definitely different. I tend to like more bass than you do for sure. You hear them as, I knew you'd hear them as maybe slightly elevated, which you do.
Just slightly, yeah.
And for me, they're not elevated at all in the bass. So what I say about them is the bass hits, but isn't emphasized to me, but it does hit beautifully.
It does.
Lively, forward-sounding treble sparkle.
Yes.
And I feel like with the ESTs, they're not defining the treble.
No, I agree. It's kind of like an enhancement.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not like using them to fully define the treble. Like
Exactly.
You said, yeah, like enhancing the treble. It has an airy presentation, which is probably what the ESTs are doing, enhancing for air. And I can see why Brian enjoyed these so much. That's in my listening notes. You made my listening notes.
Hey.
So the funny thing is the treble is on the upper range of my preference.
I can see it.
And yet doesn't cross it. So there you go. I like that. And when I heard that, I knew that for you, you're like, what I consider on the upper end of my range is probably square in the middle of your range. So yeah, love the SA6 ESTs.
Yeah, if anybody asks me what they should try at CanJam, I'm telling them go here.
This is the DD Hi-Fi E13P memory. So when the DD Hi-Fi memory arrived, I wasn't sure what to make of it because I see a pair of IEMs at the end of which is a non-changeable USB-C plug.
Right.
That's it. That's your connectivity right there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about what it is because I get them, by the way. Now that I've used them, I totally get them. So this is a joint development with Moondrop. Now, they're priced at $200 US. If you're going to make $200 earphones, Moondrop's a great partner for something like that. They have a lot of experience making affordable IEMs.
They do.
DD Hi-Fi and Moondrop did a wonderful job with these. They sound actually fantastic for what they are. So on each side, one 13-millimeter planar magnetic driver. It's a Moondrop patented driver. It's a pretty large driver for an IEM.
Yeah.
And they call it a semi-in-ear design. I don't know why they call it a semi-in-ear design. To me, they're just in-ears. They might call it that because the driver is set back from the nozzle because they are big drivers, maybe. So the chassis is AL6063 aluminum, aerospace aluminum. Actually, it's a very well-built piece. Even the USB-C plug side is very nice. All right, that USB-C interface cable that you cannot detach, let's talk about that. It's iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac compatible, and it's 32384 capable, which I confirmed on my Mac. Now, where would I use these? Well, I would use these on the go when I'm not carrying a backpack, and I will use them for that because it does have a microphone and inline control, and a lot of times that microphone and inline control are just throw-ins.
Yeah.
They're often bad or even terrible.
They definitely can be.
In this case, though, DD Hi-Fi and Moondrop, they obviously engineered that microphone to be good. It has actually excellent outgoing voice quality. Since I'm on the phone a lot and in online meetings a lot, that means a great deal to me.
Right.
The fact that it sounds fantastic with music is so important with that nice outgoing voice quality as well. So when I carry a backpack, I'll carry portable rigs, no problem, usually more than one or two. And then sometimes, though, I'll leave with just a sling, like a small sling.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bring portable setups with that. But I will always have my phones, and I have two phones. I carry an Android phone with me everywhere I go and an Apple phone. Both have USB-C jacks. Bring these, plug them in, and I can listen to music. I can talk on the phone, and the sound quality is excellent. It's high-res capable. I think a lot of headfires are going to get these once they try them. So at CanJam, if you have a chance to try the DD Hi-Fi memory, do not miss that chance. This is the DD Hi-Fi E14D Surface, which we'll just call the Surface from here on out.
Yeah.
Prior to the Surface, had you heard any other DD Hi-Fi IEM?
Not IEMs. I had experience with their accessories and DACs, but not in-ears.
Yeah, same here. So I wasn't sure what to expect.
Yeah, me neither.
I would say I was very, very happily surprised.
I was surprised.
So I enjoyed these a lot. So this is a joint development with Moondrop. Now the price is $300 USD, around $300 USD. If you're going to do a joint development with a company in that price range, I can think of a few companies that would be better suited than Moondrop.
Yeah.
So it's a 5-driver hybrid design with one dynamic driver, I'm guessing for the bass. That's a proprietary Moondrop driver, by the way. And then 4 balanced armatures in a 3-way crossover design.
Right.
That's also a proprietary Moondrop design. They describe the signature as the tuning offers a calm and comfortable listening experience.
I can agree.
I agree too. So let's go to my listening notes. The Surface's bass is very tastefully lifted, a bit over perceived flat to my ears. I would say, because you like it generally flatter than I do, that you would just say it's lifted.
I would just call it lifted, yeah.
Right. The Surface's mid-range has a nice tonality with more resolution there than I'd expect at its price.
Agreed.
The treble is on the smoother side, but still with nice treble detail. This is not an incisive sounding IEM in the treble, but I'd rather err on that side than too much treble.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't complain about a little bit more, but I tend to like mine a little more aggressive in the treble area in a way.
Brian's preference is generally brighter than I like it.
Yeah.
But I'd still call this a smoother sounding treble and consistent with what they said, a calm and comfortable listening experience. So anyways, having listened to this, I thought it would do very well on the Head Acoustics MDAX metric, multidimensional audio quality score. We've done videos about it, but I'm going to read a quick description from Sound Guy's website. I like how they describe MDAX. MDAX is instrumental evaluation, modeling the sound quality perception of groups of real listeners, sound quality scores produced by a virtual panel of listeners. So we ran it on MDAX in the lab. Here's how it scored. Mean opinion score, timbre, that includes frequency response, spectral flux, and other things, 4.9 out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah. Mean opinion score, immersiveness, 4.4 out of 5.
All right.
I do like the weight images, by the way. Mean opinion score, distortion, 4.6. And the overall mean opinion score for MDAX, 4.9 out of 5.
Yeah.
So this has scored as well or better than just about any IEM we've measured in quite some time. And that was very impressive. And I wasn't really surprised, actually.
No.
And for $300 US, I think the DD Hi-Fi Surface is a can't miss at CanJam.
Now, one thing that I do want to mention is that we've been listening to the Surface pretty much exclusively with DD Hi-Fi's upgrade cable ever since it arrived.
Yeah.
So this is called the NixNet. Now, the NixNet comes in a couple different versions. I'll talk about those in a minute. But what they share in common is a 25.4 gauge design. Inside, you'll find high purity OCC Type 2 LITS cabling, and the fittings on those are made out of a titanium alloy. It has a high-density nylon braided mesh sleeve, which we have here showing it's like a desert color.
Yeah.
It's a very supple feeling cable in the hand. I love the way it feels.
I do too.
Very comfortable. And then it also has a interchangeable connector system. Now, one of the cool things about that is that was designed in collaboration with Elitech. And it comes with MMCX and 2-pin, but there are 3 2-pin versions. One comes pre-installed and you get 2 more. So whether you have a recessed 2-pin connection or different size 2-pin connectors, you're pretty much covered completely with this cable. I love that option.
I do too.
It even has a little bit of a little handheld tool to make the swapping a little bit easier. And those 2 versions I talked about. So the main difference here is going to be on the 4.4 millimeter side. Both are terminated in 4.4. The standard version comes with a DD Hi-Fi connector that is a titanium alloy gold-plated plug, and that's $399.99 for the cable US. Now, the one we have attached and the one we've been using the whole time is the Pentacon connector. It's a little more expensive. It's $449.99 US, but that has Pentacon's gold-plated OFC plug, and I very much like Pentacon hardware.
So do I.
So when both arrived, I'm reaching for the Pentacon. And when you think about our listening experience with the Surface and this cable, honestly, I imagine a lot of people will be picking them up together, so definitely check them both out at CanJam.
I agree completely.
So this is TanchJam's Origin, and it's the second TanchJam IEM that we've had the opportunity to try. So sometime back, they gave us a loaner for the TanchJam Oxygen,
Yes.
and it's been a bit since we've heard that. I'm happy that they sent this one as well because I'm realizing I think I like TanchJam's house sound. So the TanchJam Origin, it has a 10 millimeter dynamic driver inside of this, and that dynamic driver features what they call DMT5. Now, DMT5 is a new magnetic circuit in TanchJam's 5th generation dynamic driver, and they say that the DMT5 technology delivers higher magnetic flux, lower distortion, and enhanced dynamics, elevating audio performance with improved timbre, a wider sound field, precise sound positioning, and superior separation. I think all of that definitely applies because this piece embodies a lot of what they're describing.
And especially at the price.
Absolutely. Inside it has a monolithic brass waveguide, a double composite strainer, which they say is for improved clarity. And all of this is contained within a 304 food-grade stainless steel chassis. Now, compared to the Oxygen that they sent previously, it has a similar aesthetic, but I think the Origin looks more premium
It
overall.
definitely does.
It
Feels more
definitely
premium
does.
too.
Yeah, it feels very solid in the hand. And sound-wise, sounds lovely. Now, I've been listening to this primarily paired with TanchJam's Luna, their dongle deck. And with the two together, I get a presentation that has a mild bass emphasis, but it's not overdone. I feel like that low end is very quick and responsive and textured, which is quite nice to my opinion. It has female vocals that are slightly forward, very lovely, and honestly, I like that presentation. And then it has a smooth upper end that doesn't lose out on a nice sense of air and detail. I like that quite a bit.
I do too.
Overall, I describe it as a natural sound, and I think a lot of people will as well. And I also want to mention that I did try it as well on one of my DAPs, and I'm going to say it scales quite well, especially considering the price.
Yeah, it's like $260 USD.
Yeah, very affordable.
Listening notes wise, I agreed with all of yours. You probably find the bass slightly more emphasized than I do, just given the taste differences on bass, especially.
Yep.
But I agree with all of your listening notes. I mean, for the price, that is something you definitely want to check out at CanJam.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, these are very important IEMs. These are the FiiO FA19.
Right.
This is FiiO's flagship all-balanced armature IEMs. They're fantastic.
Yes.
So I think it was CanJam Singapore 2024 where they launched, and it was in that preview video where I said, and I still feel, that these are the first IEMs from FiiO where even if you're the type of enthusiast shopping for flagship class IEMs, you have to hear the FA19. They have to be considered. All right. They're an all-balanced armature design again, 10 balanced armatures per side, custom Knowles compound base balanced armature ×2, so 4 base drivers, 2 Knowles BAs for the mids, Knowles SWFK compound treble balanced armatures ×2, so a total of 4 treble BAs per side. Now, like in their electronics, FiiO they're particular about even the smallest components they use in their products.
They are.
And even in a passive device like this. For example, this uses Rubicon audiophile grade film capacitor crossovers. Pretty cool. And the cable, by the way, is extremely lovely.
Yeah,
it's a really high quality cable.
Very soft too.
Now, yeah, they are very supple. And so I say in my listening notes that not only is the FA19 the best IEM I've heard from FiiO, it is, in my opinion, their official entry into the high-end IEM territory where some of the community's most dedicated IEM enthusiasts play. Bravo, FiiO. I even had a second bravo. Bravo. And I should talk about the switch settings.
Yeah.
This is actually extremely important and maybe even more important to me recently. So there are 2 settings, monitor mode and hi-fi mode. Monitor mode they describe as to make the sound clear and get great extension in the treble part. Okay, fair enough. That's clear enough. Hi-fi mode, customer can get more bass.
Yeah.
Simple explanation and true. You prefer monitor mode?
I do. Yeah, you handed them to me when they came in and just said, listen to these. You didn't tell me anything about them, but you did say keep it in the switch down, which I learned now was monitor mode.
Yeah.
And fantastic.
Yes, and I preferred it in hi-fi mode with more bass. And these are 2, you get essentially 2 different signatures to me. They obviously they're the same IEM and they mostly sound the same, but they're different enough to be like different signatures.
Exactly.
I've preferred hi-fi mode with the richer tone, no big surprise if you're familiar with our preferences. But then recently I switched back to monitor mode just to try to listen to what Brian's listening to. And I'll be honest with you, the last few days I've been listening to it mostly in monitor mode. And that is a testament to having 2 extremely usable signatures.
Yeah.
So you have a flagship class IEM with 2 distinct and usable signatures, and that is, again, a big deal. So the FA19, even if you're shopping for flagship class IEMs, cost no object IEMs, you must audition the FA19s if you get a chance. Now, we've talked before about FiiO's flagship all-balanced armature IEMs, the FA19. Fantastic IEMs. But sometime after that, they released these, which are their flagship hybrid IEMs, the FH19. And they are the successor to the FH9s. The FH9s were very popular.
Yeah.
Also very good, but these are so much better.
Right.
Like these are much more refined. It's just a better IEM. They represent as the FA19 did when it came out, just like the upping of FiiO's IEM game big time. So these are really good. So again, flagship 8-driver hybrid IEM, push-pull dual dynamic drivers, 6 custom Knowles balanced armature drivers. The chassis is actually gorgeous.
It is.
So pure titanium plus 7 series aerospace aluminum composite metal housing.
And wonderfully machined.
Yes, they're gorgeous. They say it's kind of a masculine design.
Yeah, it is.
I would say it is too. They're kind of tough looking, but they'll still look good on you, ladies. It has a levitated voice coil. I keep forgetting to ask FiiO what that means, but it does have a levitated voice coil. And like with the FA19, also like their electronics, they use high-grade components, even for the little stuff, inside a passive device like this.
True.
These use Rubicon audiophile-grade film capacitor crossovers. Very cool. Now, as far as the sound signature, I describe it as follows. Sound signature, smooth and refined with a little sparkle. Bass is rich, not thick. One of those non-fatiguing yet resolving sound signatures. Very nice imaging, too.
Yeah.
Now, I want to mention that they are semi-open.
They are.
You kind of have to talk about that, because if you're used to closed IEMs, you're not going to get that quick seal sensation that you get with a closed IEM. And I actually like that about these.
I do too.
They're kind of freeing, if you will, sometimes, because most of the IEMs we listen to are closed. Now, one thing I'll say about that is even though it has some of that richness, the bass richness, and I think it has something to do with the semi-open nature of them.
Maybe.
Like that it still seems very controlled.
Very much, yeah.
And maybe not as emphasized as it would be if it was totally closed.
Probably
I don't know.
not.
Maybe that's just me. I would love to see a study of IEMs where you had 2 IEMs with identical frequency responses, where one had a very high acoustical output impedance, one had very low.
Okay.
I bet you there'd be a difference in bass perception, but that's just me, even if they had the same frequency response. I don't know. Anyways, I digress. So I was listening just before we shot this to a very complicated, densely packed track. A track that I use to try to see how an IEM gets around or a headphone gets around the detail.
Yeah.
When it's so densely packed, some struggle with it. This did not. The FH19 definitely did not. So for the price, for what it is, this is a can't-miss IEM. Another one from FiiO. They're just hitting it out of the park with these later generation IEMs. In our CanJam Singapore 2024 preview video, we covered an IEM called the IceLab Prismatica Gold Limited Edition.
Right.
That was our first experience with an iSlab Prismatica model.
Yeah.
So we didn't know a whole lot about the line. And I assumed that the limited edition was significantly different from the ongoing Prismatica model.
I did too.
Right. And they are quite different in terms of the cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
The iSlab Prismatica Gold limited edition was quite a bit fancier looking.
Yes.
All right. Befitting a limited edition of 18.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The internal differences, however, as I understand it, are quite minimal, with the gold limited edition having upgraded cable, internal cabling.
Right.
So they improved the quality of the internal cabling for the limited edition version. I believe everything else inside was, for the most part, the same.
I believe so.
5 balanced armatures, 1 Knowles subwoofer, 2 Sonian composite UHF drivers, 2 full-range monomer drivers, 3-way Prismatica custom crossover, audiophile grade components. I believe it's Elna capacitors from Japan, Dale resistors from the U.S. What did I love? What did we? You loved it too. What did we love about the Prismatica Gold limited edition? The sound signature was, it for me anyway, it hit just right.
Yeah.
I would call it on the rich side of neutral. Now here's the thing. Yay, this sounds the same to me.
Yes.
So I did not miss out like I thought I did, because now we have the normal Prismatica, since the other ones are all gone. So this has a rich neutral signature, which kind of is right where my tastes are in terms of tonal balance. I like a little bit of richness. I like a little bit of emphasis in the bass. And the neutrality throughout the rest of the range, I'd say, is pretty spot on. Images beautifully. Honestly, this did very well at CanJam Singapore. Like, the impressions were very strong. So people were digging it. So if you get a chance at a CanJam to listen to the iSlab Prismatica Gold limited edition, which you probably won't because there were only 18 and I think they sold, or just the standard one, you will then understand why I'm so enthusiastic about this IEM and why it did so well at CanJam Singapore. This is the iSlab Spectrumica.
Yeah.
So here's what I love, right? We get something, right? It's so new.
Yeah.
I can hold it. We can listen to it.
Yeah.
And it looks quite finished, but yet we know so little about it.
Yep.
Anyway, I always find that funny. So we don't know where in the line it sits.
Right.
We don't know the price.
Yeah.
We do know the drivers, but we don't know how they're distributed through the spectrum. Let's talk about those drivers. It's an 8-driver IEM, 1 bone conduction driver, 1 ceramic dynamic driver, 4 balanced armature drivers, 2 electrostatic tweeters. Hey, Brian, those tweeters are probably used for the highs.
Yeah, probably.
Now, where the rest of them are in the spectrum, we're not sure. All right, so let's talk about listening notes now. And I'm already laughing because I see on listening notes, EQ to lower bass 3 dB shelf for Brian.
Hey, spoilers.
Yeah, I know.
I will say, though, once I do EQ it, there's some fantastic things going on in the mid-range, upper mid-range, and through the treble. It sounds fantastic.
Yes.
They're really phenomenal piece.
Yeah, you have to learn to like bass more. But
No, I don't.
No, it's a joke between us because I know we say this in a lot of segments, but just in case you've not heard it before, Brian and I like quite different levels of bass. I liking the appropriate amounts, Brian liking it leaner. All right, here we go. Just kidding. But here are my notes. Not sure where in the lineup the Spectrumica is, but from what I'm hearing, I'm guessing maybe it's iSlab's new flagship. I am guessing it's probably their flagship based on what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
When I hear the Spectrumica, it sounds like a relative of Prismatica. The bass is more impactful, though, but it's also very clean. Mids are rich, too, but again, very clean. To my ears, the Spectrumica is richer in overall balance than the Prismatica.
Yeah.
So all kidding aside, when we're talking about bass, it does seem like it has more bass to me when I compare the two versus the Prismatica. But here's the other thing. When I say, why would I guess it's the flagship? Just because it sounds like there's more going on. Are you hearing that, too?
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing that it's going to be the flagship.
Yeah.
I do want to spend more time with it. I do have in my notes here, as I was listening to it, I'm not sure why we don't talk about iSlab more, in the forums than we do now.
That's true.
I think that's going to change because the Prismatica is outstanding, and this is also outstanding. I think this is going to be a pretty popular listen at CanJam. Now, Meze Audio usually tells us here at HeadFi HQ about products well before they're released.
That's true.
But not this one.
Yep.
So this is the Meze Audio Alba, CanJam Singapore 2024. I go to their exhibit, and I'm like, hey, what's that? And they said, it's a new IEM. Try it. Tell us how much you think it's going to be priced at. So I listened to it. I don't remember exactly what I guessed, but let's just say I guessed a lot higher than the retail price. Because it ended up being $160
Yeah.
with a USB-C to headphone adapter, essentially a USB-C dongle deck.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. So let's talk about what it is. It's a dynamic single driver, dynamic IEM, single 10.8 millimeter dynamic driver per side. The chassis is a premium zinc alloy, anodized aluminum parts, pearl color, which I think is gorgeous. I mean, everything.
It's beautiful all around.
Everything Meze makes is beautiful to look at.
Yeah.
32 ohm impedance, and it's terminated in 3.5 millimeter, but there is an optional 4.4 millimeter balanced cable.
Right.
But big change here, because I think their previous IEMs used MMCX.
I know a number of them did.
Yes.
Yeah.
This uses 2-pin. So they went to 2-pin for this. So IEM enthusiasts rejoice. A lot of us have a lot of 2-pin cables that we can roll. But if you don't have a 4.4 millimeter terminated one and you need it, they do offer an optional cable.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how it sounds. This is a fantastic IEM. I frankly think it's the best IEM Meze has made.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how Meze feels about me saying that, because they make much more expensive IEMs than this one.
Yep.
But even among those, this is their best one to me. It's their best balanced one. We ran it through MDACs. That's Head Acoustics Multidimensional Audio Quality Score, where it absolutely killed. I mean that positively. Maximum score is 5 for timbre, which includes frequency response and spectral flux, among other things. It scored 4.9 out of 5. Its overall score was also 4.9 out of 5.
Yeah.
We measured its distortion on the audio precision analyzer, and it has fantastically low distortion. I mean, so the technical performance of this thing is subjective. How it sounds subjectively, very balanced.
Yeah.
A more neutral tuning.
It is.
Frankly, again, I think it's their best IEM.
Yeah.
$160 with the USB-C dongle deck. Anyway, the Meze Audio Alba, in my opinion, is the best IEM they've made, and it's also, I'll say this, it's one of the best value anythings in all of HeadFi. I'll say that about a few products in different categories. This is among them unquestionably.
Vortex Cables will be joining us at CanJam Hong Kong this year, so of course they'll have their full family of premium aftermarket cables for you to try, but that won't be all. They'll also have IEMs from Nostalgia Audio for you to audition. Let's take a moment to talk about the Nostalgia Audio Durandal and the Vortex Cables Nadia, both of which you'll find at the Vortex Cables exhibit.
This is the Nostalgia Audio Durandal.
Yeah.
Now, before these arrived, had you heard any Nostalgia Audio IEMs?
No, I had not.
I had not either. So this is my first experience, and what a great first experience. They'll be at CanJam, the Durandal. And let's talk about what they are. So the Durandal is a 7-driver tribrid design. So per side, one 9.2 millimeter dynamic driver for the lows, 2 bone conduction drivers for mid-lows, 2 balanced armatures for mid-highs, 2 balanced armatures for the highs. It's a 4-way crossover design, stainless steel front chamber, customized titanium sound nozzle, and an absolutely gorgeous faceplate.
Yeah.
It has a sword, very intricate edging,
Yes.
and it looks like something was that they stole, like ripped off some ancient relic and slapped them onto these. Absolutely gorgeous. And I also love that it comes with Vortex Cables cable.
Yes.
We're going to show the name, and I'm not going to venture to pronounce it.
Yeah.
All right. I love that it does come with a Vortex cable.
Yep.
Now, here's my listening notes. Bass had solid impact, but overall its sound closer to perceived flat tuning to me. So I'm guessing it says it has low-end lift down low, is what I'm guessing, because it's not prominent in the mix, the bass to my ears, but there is a lot of impact. The Durandal's mids are both clean and weighty. Maybe it's the bone conduction mid-lows, ?
Yeah.
The treble is definitely on the high side of my preferences, and so treble detail is strong with the Durandal. So I was listening to them just before we shot this segment here, and I still feel the same way as my notes are reflecting.
Right.
The treble is, again, on the high side of my preferences, probably more in line with your preference.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy listening to these. And yeah, so the Nostalgia Audio Durandal is something that should definitely be checked out at the show. This IEM cable is the Vortex Cables Nadia.
Right.
And the Vortex Cables Nadia takes over the flagship status from the previous flagship Vortex Lavinia. And the Lavinia, I believe, stays in the line.
Yes, it does.
But this is the flagship now, and it is part of the CFS series in the Vortex Cables family. Now, Vortex Cables is becoming increasingly popular. Some IEM manufacturers are even including Vortex Cables with their IEMs.
Yeah, we've seen a few of those, actually.
Yes, so they're becoming increasingly popular, but they're aftermarket cables. These are probably on the higher end of things, and this one is their new flagship, and as flagships go, it's relatively affordable.
Yeah.
$849. All right. So it is a 20.6 gauge cable. On the positive run, on the positive conductor side, it uses 4N OCC silver, that's Ono continuous cast silver, gold-plated 7N OCC copper, gold-plated 4N OCC silver, and gold-silver alloy. On the negative run, it uses 4N OCC silver and 7N OCC copper. Now, they say With Nadia, the design aims to integrate a wider range of material advantages by utilizing different materials and structural ratios for each polarity. This approach enhances the listening experience and spatial positioning, allowing for a more reasonable acoustic representation of each material's sound characteristics. I mean, that's a lot to say about these, but I will say that I have had lovely luck using these with any IEM that will accept them. And this has, because it comes with the Connex basic connectors on the ear side, so you can terminate it with any number of connections on the ear side for just about any IEMs that have interchangeable cables these days. And so for the IEMs I've used it with, what a beautiful cable.
Right.
And I think it's such a reasonably priced flagship cable in that market. And so this, for cable rollers in our community, headfires, when you go to CanJam, definitely bring your IEMs to try the Vortex cables, Nadia and the Lavinia. Actually compare those two.
Now, some years back, I went to visit QDC's headquarters in Shenzhen, China, and whilst there, I picked up the QDC Anole VX, which I still use to this day.
Yeah.
Kind of a ruthlessly revealing IEM. Still enjoy it a lot. And so that was their flagship then. But I believe this is their flagship now, if I'm correct.
Yes.
This is the QDC Emperor. It will be at CanJam. Let's talk about what it is. It's a 15-driver tribrid, 1 dynamic for ultra lows, 10 balanced armatures in the following configuration: 4 low, 2 mid, 4 high, and then 4 ESTs for ultra highs. 5-way crossover, 5 sound channels. So this is such an interesting flagship to me because I have a flagship. I think 2 flagships ago was the QDC Anole VX.
Yeah.
The VX is still in the line, to be clear.
Yeah.
But going from that flagship to this one is quite a departure. So here are my notes. It says, big departure from the QDC Anole VX with a forward signature in that vocals seem to cut through the mix clearly with these. Whereas the Anole VX is a pretty ruthlessly resolving IEM, the Emperor relaxes that a bit. Bass presence with the QDC Emperor is very good, but never overwhelms the mix to my ears. It seems QDC is using the dynamic driver for the extension and impact, but keeping the bass a little lower in the mix than a lot of the popular flagship IEMs these days. All right. I think that's how I feel about them. Because I was just listening to them before we shot this, and my notes still looking good. All right. For daily listening, I'd say I prefer the Emperor to the VX. I needed my notes to tell me that. Yes, I prefer this for daily listening to the VX, because again, the VX can be a bit much. It's pretty resolving, but I still enjoy that. I wouldn't want to give up either, though. That's for sure. Now, I also want to mention that the QDC Emperor is a gorgeous to look at IEM.
Oh yeah.
So it's a beautiful, I don't know if is that abalone, mother of pearl? I don't know.
I don't know the difference.
But whatever it is, it's gorgeous, and I love the design. It's almost, I don't know what the design's supposed to be, but for some reason when I look at it, it reminds me of something medieval. But love the way they look. I also like that it comes with a 3-in-1 swappable termination cable.
Yeah.
So it changes at the plug ends, and they're very easy to change out. I'm usually on 4.4 these days. But at CanJam, definitely try the QDC Emperor. It's a lovely flagship from QDC.
Audio Stage will be joining us at CanJam Hong Kong, and they'll be showing a new flagship IEM cable from Rolling Force alongside a new flagship IEM cable from Flash Acoustics. So let's take a look at what you'll be able to audition at CanJam Hong Kong this year. Now, this is an IEM cable from a company that before it arrived was completely new to me.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. This is the Rolling Force Violet. Now, the Violet is the new flagship in the Rolling Force family, and it's replacing the Mercury, which has been discontinued. Now, Rolling Force says that the Violet is designed for headphones adjusted with the Harman curve. So, if you think about the IEM space around us, there are so many IEMs that are going after that Harman target. It's going to be like a target-rich environment out there. There are going to be so many in-ears for them people to try at CanJam with this cable.
Yeah, now I think it's interesting they specifically say that, because I've tried it with a number of IEMs now.
Yeah.
It's been beautiful with all of them, and not all of them were Harman target tuned.
Yeah.
So anyways, I try it even if your IEMs are not Harman targeted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Rolling Force also says that it's engineered to deliver ethereal highs, yes, hello,
Yeah.
and a dynamic full frequency response, which sounds like that might be more up your alley,
Yes.
potentially. Inside of this is a 22.3 gauge 4-strand cabling, and the core materials are made of 5N OCC, that's Ono Continuous Cast Silver, silver gold platinum OCC alloy, and gold plated over 4N pure silver. It has SZ or counter twisting multi-structure lits, and it also has silver plated 5N LC OFC shielding. Now, it's terminated in 2-pin and 4.4 millimeter, and it's going to set you back here in the U.S. around $1,100-ish.
Yeah, $1,120 US.
Yeah. Now, that's premium pricing, but it's far from the most premium pricing, and this is a very premium cable, both in finish and aesthetics. I think this is a beautiful cable.
Yes.
The color, I love purple. This is a wonderful color that they went with, and the hardware's impeccable.
Yeah, I'd almost want those just based on the color alone.
Yeah.
But thankfully, they're fantastic with every IEM I've tried with them so far.
Yes.
And I have more to try. So at CanJam, if you're the cable rolling type, or even if you're not, make sure to bring your IEMs by to try with the Rolling Force Violet. Now, this beautiful aftermarket IEM cable I'm holding here is the Flash Acoustics Venom. So this is now the flagship of Flash Acoustics line. And Flash Acoustics is quickly becoming more popular in our community. It doesn't surprise me. The principles behind Flash Acoustics are extremely well regarded, fantastic reputation, even within the specific aftermarket cable community.
Right.
Now, the Venom, now the flagship, replaces, as the flagship, the Ultron. And I think the Ultron stays in the lineup, but this is now the flagship. Yeah. And the Ultron I'd been using for a while.
Yes.
Loved it so much, I ended up picking up the Thanos, which was under the Ultron. Been using those with some of my favorite IEMs. And now this. So in a previous preview video, we showed an exploded view of the Ultron.
Yeah.
Just to show how complex that design is, which you can actually see as you look at the cable in person.
Yes.
We don't have an exploded view of the Venom, but if you look at this Ultron exploded view, you can kind of see probably a very similar construction with this, with some improvements. So the Venom is a 21.7 gauge cable. On the positive conductor side, gold-plated silver gold alloy, palladium-plated silver gold alloy, silver gold platinum alloy, and 7N SCOCC copper.
That's a crazy amount of material.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And then on the negative conductor side, palladium-plated 5N OCC silver and non-plated 5N OCC silver. This also, like I think the Ultron did, features Flash Acoustics X-Cross design.
Yeah.
And then this has a new feature, a new design with the Venom called AEC, or Anti-Electromagnetic Complex, designed to offer superior anti-static and interference-resistant properties. So I'm not sure exactly how that works, but again, there are some improvements. You can already tell if you've seen the Ultron, there are differences in materials and construction. So this I've been enjoying. This is one of my favorite IEMs right now. This is the Visioneers VE10. Just as I've been enjoying the Ultron and Thanos, I'm very much enjoying the performance with the VE10s. Wonderful upgrade.
Yeah.
If you're a cable enthusiast, if you love cable rolling, or you're just curious about it at CanJam, definitely do not miss the flagship Venom from Flash Acoustics. This IEM is the Unique Melody Maven 2, sometimes referred to as the Maven 2 Crescent.
Yeah, I've seen it called that before.
Yeah, we're going to call it the Unique Melody Maven 2 for this video.
Yeah.
So the Maven 2 arrived with a bunch of other IEMs for a previous CanJam preview video. And most of the IEMs that it arrived with were kind of cost-no-object flagship type IEMs.
Right.
And we listened to these not knowing much else about them, other than they arrived with this bunch of IEMs, and they were not out of place at all in terms of performance. And then we saw the price. U.S. pricing, $1,799.
Yeah.
And that made them out of place in terms of pricing. They were the most affordable, I think, in that bunch.
I think so.
And yet they performed to me within that bunch for sure, like competitive with those flagships. Let's talk about what it is. The Maven 2 is a 10-driver tribrid, 2 dynamics for lows, 2 balanced armatures for mid-highs, 2 balanced armatures for highs, 4 electrostatic drivers for ultra-highs.
Right.
The chassis is an aerospace-grade titanium housing, absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
We love titanium around here.
Yeah, we do.
And I love the design. You love this design too.
Yeah, the design's really cool to me because it's industrial, yet it has a touch of organic look to it because of the crescent shape.
Yeah.
And then when you pair that with the titanium finish, I love the overall look of the piece.
Yeah, I love those crescent shaped, like I guess you'd call them almost trusses or something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. And some titanium, depending on how it's finished, looks more titanium than other titanium finishes.
That's true.
This looks very titanium. We love titanium around here, so that's a compliment. Anyway, so let's talk about how it sounds. I looked at my first impressions, and I said, well within my range of neutrality with tasteful bass emphasis and just clean throughout. The treble just touches the upper part of my preference range, but doesn't cross it. Articulate and clean. I really enjoy these. Given the expensive company the Maven 2 was sent with, I have to say, I think for me it was the strongest value for the dollar from that bunch.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember exactly what was in that bunch, but I remember it was a lot of flagship stuff.
There were.
All right. I have a couple of adjustments to make because that was first impressions. the way I feel, having listened to them quite a bit more now, is still mostly the same. But I will say, treble wise, it doesn't really touch the top of my preference range much anymore.
Okay.
It's really more down the middle for me over time. Like, I think as I've gotten accustomed to them, also when we do first impressions, when we're listening to a bunch of other IEMs, you kind of sort it out more.
Yeah.
With time.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've sorted it out more. And I'll say from kind of the bottom all the way to the top, it's almost right down the middle of my preference range, yet somehow also within yours.
Yeah, it is.
One of the rare IEMs that kind of fits both of our preference ranges, since we kind of have different preferences, and that's a strong statement. So yeah, competitive with flagship class IEMs to my ears, the flagships I've heard a lot of them now, and so have you. And so the Unique Melody Maven 2 or Maven 2 Crescent is a can't miss if you have a chance to audition them at CanJam.
All right, I'm going to start this one off with a simple recommendation.
Okay.
All right, $79, buy it. I mean, no, seriously, man. So this is the Kiwi Ears and Crinical Singolo.
Yeah.
And in our world of head-fi, $79 is a low-risk proposition.
Yeah, it's basically an impulse buy at that point.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think anybody would be disappointed by this one at $79. All right, let's talk about what it is. So, I want to tell a quick story. So I had a chance to talk at length with Crinical before it was released. And when he was telling me about it, there was a lot of talk about how much care and crafting went into tuning the bass. So much bass talk was had in this conversation, and I hadn't heard it yet, that I thought for whatever reason, and also knowing that it's a single dynamic driver per side, I don't know why I just formed the impression in my head that it was going to be like a bass-rich IEM.
Right.
I was wrong. And let's talk really quickly more about it. So it uses, again, a single driver, dynamic driver per side. It's an 11 millimeter dynamic driver made of a Japanese liquid crystal polymer, which is LCP. And it uses something they call CARS, which is Kiwi Acoustic Resonance System. That's a Helmholtz resonator to regulate its tuning,
right,
as opposed to a resistor capacitor network. It's a labyrinthine tubing network, a discrete bandpass filter that manipulates airflow to the driver, regulating low frequency output. And they say this is what makes the tight sub-bass shelf possible, which they say wasn't possible before in a single driver IEM. And you can actually see that labyrinthine network right through the shell.
Yeah.
And with all the talk of the work they put into that, again, I thought it was going to be bass heavy, and it's not. Actually, it would be kind of mid in my range of bass preference. It's like in the middle to low, maybe on the lower side of my bass preference range. But it is a lovely sounding IEM, and I can't believe it's only $79.
Yeah, it took me by surprise.
Yes. Yeah. Well, actually, this is probably right in your wheelhouse tonally.
Yeah.
Because you like perceived flat bass. Now, they say it has a neutral mid-range and a clean treble. I think that is also a fair description.
Yeah.
They say it's a natural sound signature akin to a subwoofer without the subwoofer. I'm not sure what that means. But it's, again, to me, it doesn't sound bass emphasized, but it has really nice extension.
Yeah.
I think that's what Crinical was going for.
Right.
$79. There it is again. Kiwi Ears, Crinical Singolo, buy it.
So this is the nice HCK Himalaya. Prior to CanJam Shanghai 2024, I had only read about nice HCK products, but I hadn't listened to them at that time.
Sure.
Then at CanJam Shanghai 2024, I had my first chance to hear something, and it was the Himalaya from Nice HCK. Had you heard anything from Nice HCK prior to CanJam Shanghai?
Yeah, I've actually owned their cables for a couple of years now.
Really? For a couple of years?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, I didn't even know that about you, Brian. I just learned something new about you today. Okay, so for me, it was the first. So I listened to the Himalaya at CanJam Shanghai, and I was so surprised by what I was hearing, and especially when they told me the price. So they're priced at $330 to $340 US.
Right.
Let's talk about what they are. They're a dynamic driver in-ear, one dynamic driver per side. It's a 10 millimeter carbon nanotube driver, front and rear dual cavities, double layer coaxial diaphragm, CCAW, that's copper clad aluminum wire voice coil. The universal fit housing is constructed of aircraft grade titanium alloy.
And that's really nice to see because it's rare at that price point.
It is rare at that price point, which is probably one of the reasons I was surprised by the price as well, not just the sound.
Yeah.
They use 5-axis CNC machining to achieve this.
And it's beautiful.
It is beautiful, simple,
Yes.
elegant.
Yes.
It has replaceable acoustic filters. So the nozzle that holds your ear tips are replaceable, and it comes with 3 sets. Now, I want to say this. It'll come with 3 sets when you pick up the Himalaya, but we only have the gold set.
Right.
Maybe because we got them early or something. The gold is balanced. Blue is enhanced lows. Gray is enhanced highs. I've seen the frequency response plots on HeadFi. It looks like they achieve, for example, with the enhanced lows, they by lowering the upper mids and treble, for example.
Sure.
Which is the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's all relative. But we have the gold, which is the balanced. And so my impression is going to be based on that. The cable is also lovely. Silver-plated OFC, oxygen-free copper, 2-pin connection, swappable terminations, 2.5 millimeter, 3.5 millimeter, 4.4 millimeter. I like when they do that.
Yeah, me too.
So that you don't have to worry, you're always covered. 2 sets of ear tips. Balanced is a translucent set.
Mm-hmm.
Enhanced lows, the blue set.
And I'm not surprised that's what's on there right now.
I have the enhanced lows set.
Yeah.
So I like my bass. So let's talk about the tonal balance, actually, because that's a funny thing. The tonal balance I would describe as neutral.
Yeah, I would too.
Like for my tastes, the way I hear it, squarely neutral.
Mm-hmm.
The bass, for example, to me, is not emphasized at all.
Right.
Really nice extension, though.
Yeah.
But not emphasized.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say with the gold nozzles, it's perceived flat bass to me. In fact, overall, I'd say it's perceived flat.
Yeah, it's also really smooth.
Smooth, but not syrupy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so like a natural tone.
Yeah.
And it also images spherically big.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the single driver design. Like I've said before, if you can achieve with a single driver what you want to achieve, sometimes that's a very good thing.
Right.
From a phase standpoint, things like that. So it images beautifully. So for the price at CanJam, if you have a chance, and if Nice HCK is new to you as well, or you haven't heard the Himalaya yet, yeah, make sure to check these out at CanJam. So the cable rollers in our community will definitely want to check out the Nice HCK cables.
Oh, yeah.
What I didn't know is that you'd checked them out long before I had. So you've been using their cables for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I've owned 2 cables for a couple of years. Yep.
This I didn't even know about you.
Yeah.
So these were my first time playing with their aftermarket cables.
Mm-hmm.
And these are premium cables. And what did you start with?
I just went entry level.
So some of their entry level models?
Yeah.
So even though these are like their premium models or some of their premium models, these are still very reasonably priced.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into them. So on the left, we have the Nice HCK AU King or Gold King, because AU is gold. They use 7N OCC conductors, surface plated with 4N gold.
Right.
And you can really see that gold. And they also use silver plated OCC conductors. There are 2 versions. So there's a 4.4 millimeter plug version that uses a more standard 4.4 millimeter plug.
Right.
With 2 pin on the other side. Those are $158 US. And then there's a version that they have something called an OFC degaussing 4.4 millimeter plug.
Right.
That's $30 more at $188 US. So what that is it's a non-plated OFC copper plug.
Yeah.
Anyways, I thought that was pretty cool. So the next one I want to go to is the Nice HCK Dragon Scale 2. That's on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
That uses silver palladium alloy conductors that have undergone liquid nitrogen cryogenic treatment. Now, those in this configuration, 4.4 millimeter with 2 pin, those are around $213 US.
Right.
And then the one in the middle is the most expensive one of this trio. That's the Nice HCK SS Orpheus. That uses 5N single crystal pure silver, which they say delivers very outstanding high frequency performance. The cable is sheathed in what they call a colorful shock absorbing yarn.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting yarn. It has a very interesting hand feel.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. They use high-end, non-plated OFC degaussing 4.4 millimeter plug on it. So I think that's the plug that I already described. It's a non-plated OFC copper, oxygen-free copper plug.
Mm-hmm.
That SS Orpheus runs $310 US, around $310 US in that configuration. So I've played with all of them using the Nice HCK Himalaya.
Right.
All of them are wonderful upgrade cables. Versus the stock cable, which is already very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nice to swap in some of these premium cables. With that, I spent more time with the SS Orpheus because I wanted to hear the high end that
Right.
they were talking about. And it is a very nice pairing with the Nice HCK Himalaya. What I'd like to do is try it with some other IEMs that I've been using a lot of, especially, again, the SS Orpheus probably is the one I'm most interested in with its all-silver construction to try with some of my other IEMs. This is the AME Musa, now the flagship of AME's IEM lineup, taking over what were the 2 co-flagships, the AME Raven, which are still in the lineup, the AME Raven and the AME Gaia.
Right.
So the Musa, what a gorgeous IEM, first of all. So for some people, AME might be a bit of an enigma, a bit of a mystery. Like you've heard the name, but you don't know a lot about them.
Yeah.
That was the case for me, but a couple of CanJam Singapores ago, I had the privilege of meeting Jaegun Song from Korea. That's where they're based. What a groovy guy. Super hip musician, dude. He's a joy to talk to. Super passionate. And he let me hear a prototype of what would become the Musa. And it's a beautiful, just lush-sounding IEM. I'm going to get to that in a second. The Musa is a 15-driver hybrid, 13 balanced armature drivers, 2 bone conduction drivers. I don't usually focus so much on the design, like the outer part of it, but I have to here.
Mm-hmm.
So the case, they say that the shells, the world's first earphone shells and plates made using pure copper
Moku Megane.
Thank you, Brian. He pronounces that stuff a lot better than I do. Moku Megane blocks. That's a Japanese metalworking procedure which produces a mixed metal laminate with distinctive layered patterns. Reminds me of like Damascus steel with the folded layers of steel.
Yeah, it does.
But in this case, you have like, distinct layers of different colored copper, and it's so beautiful. And then the faceplates look like ancient Greek coins.
They do.
Made of that Moku Megane stuff. So beautiful that way. In fact, I think the name Musa is Greek for muse.
I believe it is, yeah.
All right, Greek headfires. If I got that wrong, forgive me. But I think it is. I think Musa is Greek for muse. Now, they say of its sound signature, AME's special tuning for the Musa features deep bass, clear vocals, and a wide sense of space in all directions.
And I agree.
Thanks, AME. You did my homework for me because I agree. You agree.
Yeah.
My notes include the following: rich, lush bass, rich, lush tonal balance on the richer side of my preference range. Beautiful imaging. Okay. Definitely on the richer side of my preference range, which would mean it's definitely on the richer side of your preference range.
It is.
But beautiful sounding nevertheless. So it's also packaged like a flagship IEM.
Yeah.
It comes with this case, which looks like something that I would pay rather a lot for, right, as a specialty IEM case in the aftermarket. But it comes with that, which is beautiful. It's a 3-compartment case. Also comes with 9 pairs of tips: spin-fit silicone tips, AME silicone tips, Comply foam tips, and then with this beautiful Elitech cable, custom made for the Musa. It's an Elitech premium custom cable, 2-pin, of course, 4.4 millimeter termination, and again, it looks like and feels like an Elitech aftermarket cable. So. Yeah. If AME is a mystery to you, then you have to make sure at CanJam to demystify AME and just listen to the Musa and the rest of their lineup. This is the AME Raven, once the co-flagship of AME's IEM lineup, along with another model called the AME Gaia.
Right.
I've not heard the Gaia, have you?
Neither have I.
All right, so we must listen to the AME Gaia the moment we have a chance. But we have spent a lot of time with this, the AME Raven. And I say once the co-flagship of the lineup because a model that's newer came up, took over flagship status. It's called the AME Musa, and it casts a very big shadow. So I want to make sure to shed some light on the Raven because this, I'll say it, this to me is probably more in my wheelhouse than the Musa.
Yeah, mine too.
All right, I'll get to that in a minute. So it's a 12-driver hybrid, the Raven. 8 Sonian balanced armature drivers, 4 electrostatic drivers. And I say in my listening notes, more traditional sounding, more neutral to my ears than the lusher sounding Musa. I hear the Raven is slightly forward and has treble that's smooth, refined, and very detailed, very being emphasized, incisive.
Yeah.
And I mean that very positively. AME really gets tremendous treble detail from those ESTs.
Oh, yeah.
Just beautiful sounding. And it has a tastefully done, tastefully executed bass emphasis.
Right.
Without being at all, to me, overblown. So beautiful sounding IEM. More in my wheelhouse than the Musa.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a subset of community members who are definitely going to prefer the Musa, who like that lusher sound signature. But I think this probably has wider appeal. So this is definitely a flagship worth catching at CanJam. Now, I also should mention that it's packaged like a flagship.
Yeah, it is.
Comes with some beautiful things like 9 pairs of tips, spin fit CP100 AME blue tip and Comply foam, and the cable's also gorgeous.
Yes.
It's called the AME Old and Wise cable.
Yeah.
I do love that name. It's platinum plus gold plus silver alloy. It's an 8-core design terminated in 4.4 millimeters. So the AME Raven, don't miss it in the shadow of the Musa. Make sure to find it. This was the first Rapsodio IEM to come through Headphone HQ.
Yeah, it was.
This is the Rapsodio Scarlet Beast, and I love that name. So tough.
Yeah.
Anyway, I dig the aesthetic, too. I like the way that cable looks.
Yes.
I like the color of those earpieces, and I love the way the earpieces look kind of old school.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And I mean that in a very good way. So let's talk about what they are. The Rapsodio Scarlet Beast is a 10-driver tribrid, 1 dynamic driver for the lows using something called an RSD square pen driver.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what that kind of driver that is either. 4 balanced armatures for the mids, 4 balanced armatures for the highs, and 1 RSD square piezoelectric driver also for the highs. So I need to find out more about what these RSD square drivers are.
Yeah.
Now, the Scarlet Beast is priced at $4,099 USD, so around $4,100 US, which I would consider a premium priced IEM.
Right.
But within Rapsodio's IEM lineup, it's actually not their most expensive IEM.
No, it's actually more towards the middle of the pack as far as pricing goes.
Right. But even though I would still say $4,100 is a premium priced IEM for most people.
Yep.
So if you're at CanJam and you're shopping for some premium priced IEMs, make sure to audition the Scarlet Beast. Now, in terms of its sound signature, I'd describe it as smooth.
Yes.
That's kind of one of its overriding characteristics to me. So, for example, I am very sensitive to sibilance. So if an IEM or headphone spotlights or highlights sibilance, accentuates it, I'm almost immediately turned off.
Yeah.
The Scarlet Beast does not do that at all. It's smooth. So I would find its treble quite smooth. And one thing I really like about it is the bass, because the bass to me, it has really nice extension, but it doesn't sound accentuated at all to me. Does it to you?
No, not really.
I would almost say that its bass is perceived flat but impactful.
Yeah.
And then its mids are quite linear. So I would say that this is a smooth sounding IEM, and if that's your tonality, that's what you generally look for, and you're shopping in that premium priced range, the Rapsodio Scarlet Beast is a can't miss at CanJam.
Now, I know that's a long list of IEMs and accessories, but CanJam Hong Kong will have even more still. IEMs like FiiO's upcoming new tribrid, the FX17, a new flagship tribrid IEM from Hercules Audio called the Moses, Moritz Audio's beryllium plated dynamic Dragon, Music Box's 20 driver per side Steranko, and the Softeer super flagship, the Enigma. Sweer will be showing their flagship hybrid, the SR11. Yongza will have a number of accessories and IEM cables like the Yongza Titan 2, and you'll be able to find flagship cables for headphones and IEMs from Zephone. CanJam Hong Kong will be the perfect place to audition new releases and Headfire favorites head-to-head, so bring your favorite test tracks and discover the IEMs and cables waiting for you at CanJam Hong Kong 2025.
Well, that was a lot of gear.
Yeah, it was.
I am so looking forward to our first CanJam Hong Kong.
Yeah, absolutely. Which again is happening January 18th and 19th, 2025 at the Hong Kong Ocean Park Marriott. Now, there was so much gear in this preview, but we still haven't scratched the surface. That's nowhere near everything that's going to be there.
Not even close.
So, scrolling on the screen now is a list of all of the exhibitors and brands that you'll be able to find at CanJam Hong Kong this year.
Now, we thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. Please make sure to hit like and subscribe. We're looking forward to seeing you at CanJam and, of course, on the forums at headfi.org.